It's a Monday, which means one thing is a Reaction Monday. John, here you there. Thanks for hanging out with us as you always do. And there's plenty to get into this morning. And I know there's plenty to get into this morning. We've got our guests that come in traditionally on our Mondays. Abe Gordon set to join us here in just a little bit. Howorth is going to be discussing what's going on in the African continent and the events of the weekend and getting us ready for tomorrow with Argentina and Egypt. Egypt's practice going on this morning, a little later, I think literally after the show is over. Actually, no, it is Argentina that is practicing when the show is over, and then Egypt practices after. And then they both have their MD-1s. I'll be there for those. 3:30 and 5:30 are the Matchday -1 press conferences, and so we'll all learn together with me at Atlanta Stadium downtown this afternoon. Jason is going to be at Argentina practice, so follow him on the socials, and you can find out what's going on up there with the mass of humanity that is probably going to be there with Jason. So you'll have that to look into, and you'll have Egypt to look into, and the Matchday -1s to get into later this afternoon. So that's today. And Jason will also be at Park Tavern from about 4 o'clock on, and he will be there today. And there's a match to get into tonight. Actually, there are two to get into today. One tonight involving the home team. And if you're probably going someplace, the boss is going to a local establishment, and the idea is that she is going to get there with her crew about 6 o'clock for the 8 o'clock kick. So you should have some space and some carryover from the Spain-Portugal match, which has zero political overtones whatsoever, zero history attached. So that's at 3 o'clock at Jerry World. And then you've got the matchup following that is going to be in Seattle at Seattle Stadium, Lumen Field, whatever you want to call it. And the promos that have been cut have been pretty good by those of you out there on social media for 8 o'clock tonight. We'll get into that. We got to get into the matches that happened yesterday. We've got highlights, and we have post-match sound from Thomas Tuchel. We will try and update you as best we can on all the events that happened last night. And they've started coming fast and furious, frankly. From all of the press conferences that we've been having over the last couple of days and all the losses that have been coming over the last couple of days, it is now trying to catch up with the folks that have since said they're hanging up their shingles or who are going to be hanging up their shingles. Let me see if I've got my list. Cristiano Ronaldo says that this is his last World Cup. Carlos Queiroz, and we'll catch up with our friend Ali Howorth at the bottom of the hour to discuss this and others. Carlos Queiroz is hanging up his shingle from his time at Ghana, which lasted about 3 months. Not to be outdone, Hervé Renard, who went into the Tunisia dumpster fire, lasted all of 18 days. He's leaving. There's issues with the Senegalese national team. They apparently are still stuck in Seattle. We'll get into that. Neymar, after the loss yesterday, said that he's done at World Cups. Javier Aguirre, after the match last night at the Azteca, said he is retiring. Memo Ochoa, obviously, with the loss, he is done. I think that's everybody so far. Everyone that was eliminated over the weekend. So that is, or notes that have come across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 individuals on the weekend basically hanging up their collective shingles. So you have that. And I know I'm kind of burying the lead here just a little bit. But we also have what's going on with the USMNT. And yes, there's a lot to get into. Yes, there are a lot of differing approaches, opinions, what have you. And I know that our guests this morning are going to have their thoughts about the whole thing. They will give their opinions. I will ask them. Twitch Pitch, I know that you have your opinions. Go ahead and lay them out and have the conversations that you have with each other and with us. We are going to, for those that may not be as up to speed as the rest, we'll be going over the questions and the events of basically the last 24 hours leading up to 8 o'clock tonight. And Abby goes right to the crux of the matter, wondering why there is not an appeals process with FIFA, and that is probably the end of the line, the $1 gazillion question. That is the gazillion-dollar question. Now, guest number one, as always, traditionally on our Mondays, is our buddy Abe Gordon, 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. And we will bring Abe in and see if he has properly recovered from the 6.2-mile event that he was in this past weekend. Have you, recovered, sir? ?
I recovered enough. I ran this morning. My hamstring was definitely quite sore, a lot more sore than I expected it to be after the Peachtree, but I was able to run easy-ish this morning. Nothing's easy in the humidity, so just brutal sweat jump, but yeah, we survived and we got the shirt and we lived to tell the tale.
It's an odd color mix this year. They went with the yellow and green. I've never seen that combination before with the Peachtree.
Yeah, I just assume that it's easier in spring when you brush your sleeve up against someone's car that you don't see the pollen on it. But look, I understand the frustration of people in general with some of the color schemes that the Peachtree chooses, some of the attention to detail or lack thereof this year. But look, I don't know if the Peachtree is ever really about the design of the shirt. The shirt is a trophy, and it's one of the reasons that you run it, and it won't change how I proudly wear it or show it off over the course of the year until I get another one next year.
Exactly. So how many is this for you?
I don't know. It's somewhere probably between 12 and 18.
Wow.
Something like that. This year was number 49 for my dad. So the big 5-0 Peachtrees next year.
Nice. That is very, very cool. All right. So I'm just going to lay it out. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Look, FIFA is a corrupt organization. We all understand that. I'm not fighting that. I'm not doubting that. That does not mean that every decision FIFA comes to is a corrupt decision on its own. And quite frankly, the corruption that the levels that FIFA is engaged with goes far, far, far beyond overturning one red card for one player. So let's get down to the brass tacks of this. All of us said as soon as the red card was handed out, that's a misapplication of VAR. And it's a bad red card, and it never should happen. We looked into it. It didn't appear that there was a method for the U.S. men's national team to appeal the red card. It does appear that while it wasn't an appeal, FIFA has its own abilities to look back at some of the issues here and make changes. Again, not based on anything other than a misapplication of their own order. And so, look, we all said for 2 days it was a bad red card, never should have been a red card. And now that they overturned it, there's a bunch of shouts about corruption. And I understand that. And I would only say, because I have no problem with Belgium and what they're doing either. Because I said this yesterday. If it was Lukaku who had the red card and was dealing with this situation, and then all of a sudden on Sunday afternoon, they're like, hey, by the way, US, you're going to have to deal with Lukaku tomorrow night. Yeah, I would be up in arms, and I'd be like, how could this happen? That's nonsense. So, like, all of the shouting and yelling from the Belgium side of things, I completely understand that. But the suspension of this red card suspension, which reads like a Monty Python subtitle, it ultimately was the correct decision. It's a corrupt organization. Doesn't necessarily mean this was a corrupt decision.
Article 27 is where we're going here. and this is what FIFA has quoted as of 12:40 yesterday afternoon. Implementation of the match suspension is suspended for a probationary period of 1 year. Fuller and Balogun commits another infringement of a similar nature and gravity during the probationary period. The suspension shall be revoked and the sanction enforced without prejudice to any additional sanction imposed for the new infringement. So then we go to FIFA's disciplinary code. Article 27, suspension of implementation of disciplinary measures. 27.1, the judicial body may decide to fully or partially suspend the implementation of a disciplinary measure. Section 2, by suspending the implementation of the sanction, the judicial body subjects the person sanctioned to a probationary period of 1 to 4 years. Section 3, if the person benefiting from a suspended sanction commits another infringement of a similar nature and gravity during the probationary period, the suspension shall be revoked by the judicial body, sanction enforced without prejudice to any additional sanction imposed for the new infringement. Section 4, disciplinary measures relating to match manipulation cannot be suspended. So going from Rule 27, there are, and the BBC did this back around Thanksgiving because of Cristiano Ronaldo's judgment that came from FIFA. They used Article 27 about this, and this was leading into a World Cup. There has not been a moment inside a World Cup itself where Rule 27 has been used. But if you look at it, Ronaldo should have gotten a 3-match ban for elbowing in a matchup against the Republic of Ireland. Took into account the disciplinary committee. He had not received a red card in his other 225 international appearances. So he got 1 match in the final qualifier, and the other 2 fell under Rule 27. No players have not been suspended inside the World Cup. You had in 2014, France defender Laurent Koscielny sent off first leg of a World Cup playoff. Automatically banned, chose not to extend. Croatia, 2014, Mario Mandzukic should have missed the opening 2 games of the 2014 final, sent off serious foul play. 1-game ban, scored twice. 2006 World Cup, Netherlands midfielder Philippe Cosu in a matchup against Albania. FIFA chose to ban him for 2, meaning he missed the final qualifiers, free for the opening match of the World Cup. And then there are 2 others to get into as you go further and further back, 2010, 2002. And Jason last night even went into the pre-red card era. So Rule 27 has been used in the past. It just has not been used in a World Cup internal setting. And that's where all of this furor and fire has started in looking at Rule 27 here.
Well, and you also, for every instance that you listed in terms of not overturning inside of the World Cup, you didn't have VAR and you didn't have the misuse. Because you didn't have VAR, you didn't have the opportunity to then misuse VAR. You just had the decision on the field that gets reviewed. And again, I've said since the beginning of all of this, and really since the beginning of instant replay across all sports, I hate the idea of instant replay being used in slow motion. Everything looks worse in slow motion. And so you take that into account. I also think that you take into account that initially Balogun, his toe clipped the Bosnian defender's heel. That readjusts his stride. It readjusts his landing point. It needs to be taken into account as to why I never thought it should have been a straight red card in the first place. So again, they have this in order that they can correct mistakes that were applied in the moment on the field. They have done that here. And Balogun, unless we get another piece of sidewinding news, is set to play for the United States. Let's not also look past the idea that just because Florin Balogun's playing tonight, that you're going to win this game without question. This is not Bosnia and Herzegovina. This is one of the top 10 teams in the world, according to the FIFA rankings, who just survived being down 2-0 for quite a stretch against Senegal. And so just because you have this guy back does not secure victory and advancement in this game. It's going to be a tough game. It was going to be a tough game with him. It was going to be a tough game without him. And now it's still a tough game as he returns. So it does not necessarily mean that the U.S. is going to be advancing. They've still got a battle and a fight on their hands. And at this point, part of the discussion is going to come down to which team is less impacted by the chatter, by the noise. Is Belgium and their squad so discussive of the I can't believe he's playing that they lose focus on the game that could benefit the U.S.? Do they take it as, a point of pride? Bring them in there. Let's say, who cares? We're still going to beat you. Maybe they get double down focus. Who is less distracted certainly could play a role as well.
USA right now is a favorite at a plus 150 in the juice boxes. Belgium on the road is a plus 179, and your draw is a plus 240. Since we have kind of gravitated into the matchup in and of itself, who are you looking at outside of whether it's Flair and Balogun, Ricardo Pepi, Haji Wright, whatever it looks like at the striker position up top? Who are you looking at in this matchup as keys in the Abe Gordon spot shadow going up against this Belgium side that you mentioned? Was down 2-0 and was looking old and slow against Senegal late into the second half. And then you get that first one, and then we'll get into this with Ali Howorth coming up bottom of the hour about Senegal not responding mentally and emotionally to the first one. They weren't settled in. 2 goals in 3 minutes. Then you've got to go play an extra 30. Who else are you looking at tonight as part of your fulcrums and your spot shadows in this one for keys to win?
Well, I view Belgium as a little bit of a mixture of what Bosnia and Herzegovina was going to present, or what they did present, and what Senegal would have presented. They have the size and the physicality of Bosnia. They do at times have the speed, though, of Senegal, certainly up front. And so I think Tim Ream, who has had a really good tournament, is going to be important today. I think, like Bosnia and Herzegovina, you want to avoid set pieces. You want to avoid letting Belgium putting those big bodies into the box and be dangerous around the area. And that also goes for Matt Freese. And John, he has not really been tested a ton in this tournament. We've seen keepers that have had incredible games here over the course of the past 10 days. Freese has rarely been called about to bail his team out of an opportunity of goal scoring from the opponent. And so you just have to wonder, and not that he won't be ready, but he needs to step up in those moments. If something does happen and Belgium does get through, are you able to get a tip of the finger to it over the bar, or a shoulder that taps it just wide of the bar? We've seen that from guys recently. I thought Norway's keeper yesterday was incredible against Brazil. And I thought last night, even though you gave up 2 goals, Pickford had a really strong performance. And so, again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a clean sheet, but just in that one moment, are you ready to deliver potentially a save that sends the U.S. men's national team to the quarterfinals? It's been a pretty easy tournament for Freese back there. And so just, look alive, stay alert, and be ready for it, because one save we've seen throughout this tournament can make the difference.
Did you watch the match last night from the Azteca?
I did. I was so close to turning. Well, I didn't watch it from Azteca, but
No.
I was here. I know. I'm kidding. I was so close to turning it off after Bellingham scored the second goal. If it had gotten to halftime, I had to wake up early to run, man. So if it had gotten to halftime at 2-0, I might have told myself they're going to see it. I'm surely a team as capable as England, as compact as England, as well coached and together as England can see out a 2-0 result. I understand the altitude was going to come into play. The last 6 minutes of the half was all Mexico, though, including not just one goal, but it looked like they were on the precipice of equalizing even before halftime. So once they had gotten it back to 2-1, it was kind of like, man, you're kind of dialed in, because it's going to be a wild second half. And it absolutely was a wild second half. Including 11 plus minutes of stoppage time and approximately 48 crosses into the box. Almost none of them with any real danger somehow. So, it was definitely worth staying up for. I got 3 hours of sleep before the run, which was not a great situation on its own. But you got to make choices in life, and that was one of them.
Yep, and you end up with Thomas Tuchel now being congratulated, at least locally in the British papers, for this master stroke of formation and defense. And I mean, look, we knew it was going to be a grinder. There's going to be that point when you're at that altitude, and as a runner, you know about elevation changes and what it can do to your ribs and your inside and all the breathing and stuff. But Kwanzaa gets the red card. And basically for 45 minutes, 36 plus added. You're having to defend your ass off and make sure that you don't surrender the lead that you had. So I don't know if it was necessarily a technological masterstroke by Thomas Tuchel or formational masterstroke. Look, it was a 5-4-1, or it was, a 5-3-1 at that point. But you got to give the guys credit for grinding it out and making it through the other side the way they did. And I think the substitutions were just as key, where you brought in 9-foot 2-inch Dan Burn to help out because you knew that all those crosses were going to be happening. So I don't think, Tuchel does get his flowers, but I don't think it's for what folks are thinking that initially he should.
Well, and a couple of things, and it kind of reminded you a little bit of Malik Tillman's goal when the U.S. was pressed up against it to get that 2-goal advantage. You just had that weird breakaway after you're already down to 10 men, and Harry Kane's able to draw a penalty, and obviously that goal turned up big because Mexico was able to get one back. I was really, in my brain, I was sitting there watching it. I was like, are they really just going to concede cross after cross for 38 minutes here? Like, is that really what we're going to do? And if so, are they truly going to be able to hold on and not essentially not slip up on a single delivery? Because it only takes one. And of all of the crosses, Mexico had one or two shots that were off target. I think Stones maybe played that ball out just to the left of the post. He conceded a corner, but made sure it wasn't obviously in the net. They did very well defending all of those crosses. I thought when it became apparent like that Mexico was just going to send cross after cross, I was like, they're not going to be able to hold for 25 minutes. Like, they're going to concede here. It's only a matter of time. And then once you get to down 10 men in extra time with the altitude, it becomes a real problem. I honestly couldn't believe that they were able to hold strong the rest of the way there. So, yes, kudos to them. I agree with you. I was like, man, they just got a bunch of 6-foot-something dudes that they're bringing in to put heads on balls, and they did just that. And so bravo to them. And I think it sets up an incredible matchup that, quite frankly, I think is winnable for Norway. So I'm really looking forward to that one.
13 of 52, by the way, with crosses for El Tri. England 1 for 4. 13 of 52.
The other thing is, like, if you're just going to blindly send crosses in, do it quicker. Like, do it from whatever part of the pitch. Like, there was so much passing around to try and get it, I guess, near the end line, but then sometimes that'd be blocked off. They had to pass it. I'm like, if you're going to just send crosses in and let England clear it, like, just send a cross in every 18 seconds. Like, what are we doing? Trying to poke your way through and find something wasn't going to happen. I honestly think they should have sent like 20 more crosses in than they did. I think they wasted too much time trying to pick out a perfect cross when that wasn't going to be found.
All right, so what's your rundown like? What are you up to?
Well, I'm with Carl Dukes today. We're going to be at Park Tavern there, right outside Piedmont Park, from 2 to 6. Jason Longshore is going to be following us right there from 6 to 8. So getting you set for certainly the U.S. game, but also taking a look at Portugal, Spain, and potentially an opponent in the quarterfinals if the U.S. can advance. So, again, the round of 32 has been outstanding. The round of 16, really every single game has delivered thus far. We'll see if tomorrow maybe delivers. Certainly that big game here in Atlanta is going to be awesome. I don't know if the one in Vancouver is exactly buttoned up, but yeah, man, it's been great. There's no doubt about it. I know I jumped on pretty early. I just want to make sure that you are going to appropriately rip Jesse Marsch for a pair of comments in which he declared himself the team he'd rather be over Morocco after a 3-0 defeat.
I shook my head. I just kind of was like, I was basically shaking of the head and going, "Child, please."
It's. I'm not calling Jesse Marsch a loser, but in this game, in this match, he was the losing coach. It's the biggest loser coach comment that I've ever seen. And I understand what he's trying to say, being proud of his team and how they played, and it was, I don't care how attractive you play if you're able to find and scratch and claw to a win. So it was a loser coach comment. He's not the only one to say something like that, but it's It's a pretty stupid look. I'll say that.
Yeah, and that's where we are with Jesse Marsh, and we're going to
Yeah.
continue to discuss with that. Have fun at Park Tavern. We know it's going to be loud and crazy, and that you guys bat and lead off for Jason. It's going to be huge. Big crowd anticipated tonight with the U.S. and Belgium. Just strap in, make sure that you've got a path in and a path out, and that you're going to be okay. I know it's going to be crazy. Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, look, we need to flip the script. 2 host countries have now lost in the round of 16. Let's not make it 3 tonight. Let's find a way into the quarterfinals. So hopefully that's the conversation you and I are having over the next couple of days.
You got it, my friend. We'll see you soon.
You got it. Thanks, John.
There he goes, Abe Gordon, 92.9 The Game. Time for the hot tag, and I've filibustered past 9:30, and I apologize to Ollie Howorth for doing that. We bring Ollie. So how was breakfast? So, you changed the jersey behind you. Nicely done.
We got to keep it updated. Otherwise, it looks like I'm kind of keep recording the same exact video over and over again. Or I need to make sure I can show that there's been a difference in time.
All right. So what are you up to today? Are you heading to practices and MD -1s?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it, depending on kind of availability of transport and such, especially for the training. I find it quite hard to often reach the training of different teams. But yeah, very much we're in build-up mode towards the Egypt and Argentina game, and kind of a game that I can't wait for. I think it's going to be a cracker tomorrow.
All right. So since you've opened that door, go ahead and hit me. What are your early thoughts?
I think, look, I'm a huge fan of Argentina. Not in the sense that I like support them or anything, but I think they've shown an ability to manage tournaments and tournament football in a way that no other nation has, and that's why they won the World Cup in Qatar 2022. I think a lot of people looked at the Cape Verde game, which man, heartbroken to see them not win, because I wanted Cape Verde to, but I think a lot of people looked at that and said, oh wow, like this Argentina team isn't that great. But for me, actually, it was a reminder of what they did in 2022, which was beat the Netherlands on penalties, scrape past different teams in the knockouts, lose to Saudi Arabia, and still win the World Cup. So for me, I'm really excited to see them. Egypt, for me, are one of the more interesting nations because they are a team that kind of have not come out of nowhere, but from an Egyptian perspective, I think if you asked Egyptians maybe 12 months ago, even 8 months ago, how they felt about the national team, they would have said, we just don't care, feel so apathetic, we feel so disconnected from them. Now, this is probably the most positive Egyptian football has felt in 15, 16 years. They're a very exciting team. They're not very good at defending, which for me is fun because I think it means that the only way they can approach this game is to have a go Argentina and to say, we've got to try and attack them, because if we try and defend, if we try and do what, say, Paraguay did to France, we will lose, and we'll lose pretty badly. So for me, I think it sets it up to be quite an interesting and exciting game because Argentina are not infallible. They're not a dominating team. They're a team that lets you have a chance. And I think Egypt are the type of team that will take that chance, but similarly to Argentina, give the opposition even more chances.
All right. So when it comes to Egypt, we know the shiny object. Obviously, you're sitting there and you're staring at someone like a Mo Salah. Who below the radar should we be focusing on outside of the shiny objects for success to happen for Egypt? We would be looking at blank.
I mean, the kind of standout player of this tournament for Egypt has been Imam Ashur, who's he scored the goal against Australia. He scored against Belgium. He's a really interesting guy. He came through at Zamalek, one of the massive, there's 2 huge clubs in Egypt, Al Ahly and Zamalek, arguably the biggest rivalry in world football. You put them right up there with Boca Juniors and River Plate, Barcelona, Real Madrid, the huge rivalry. He came through at Zamalek, then moved to Midtjylland in Denmark, one of these clubs that are so good at developing players. And he was kind of heralded as like the next Mo Salah. He was the superstar. He was this kind of flamboyant, kind of real strong character, a bit of a maverick. And essentially what happened is he really struggled to adapt to life in Denmark, which is very understandable. I mean, Cairo is a city of 20 million or something. I think in Midtjylland, it's a town of less than 20,000 or something absurd like that. It's a village. And so I think he found it hard adapting, essentially got homesick, struggled to kind of stay focused. And now is back at Al Ahly, which is the other big, huge club in Egypt, has done very well there. And we've been kind of waiting for him to have his come out moment for Egypt. Oh, sorry, he'd never scored before for Egypt. He'd kind of had moments, but he'd never had this, come to the fore. This tournament has all been about him. He's been the superstar. He's been the big player. He's been the one who's come up with the big moments. Against Australia, he probably could have scored another 1 or 2 goals if he didn't wasn't unlucky with defenders blocking it. So for me, if there's one player you want to look at outside of Mo Salah, it's got to be Imam Ashur.
All right. So since you opened the door with Cabo Verde, let's go there. It was the heroes' welcome that they should have gotten, and it was there in just absolute depth of field, and it was really cool to see. When it comes to their progress and continuing to add to what we've seen with them in this tournament, is it going to be just as simple as saying, keep doing what you're doing, considering what they've done over the last decade to get to this point? How do they proceed to that quote unquote next level, whatever that is in your mind?
Yeah, I think it is as simple as saying keep doing what you're doing, but I guess that is no longer simple. I think when, what has made Cabo Verde so successful is the fact that they are small, the fact that they are, things are simple. And I remember speaking to one of the vice presidents about it, and I kind of asked, like, what's the secret to your success? And he was like, it's the fact that we only have 7 full-time staff. And it means that we have to do everything. If vice president is picking up, the balls at training, the other vice president is doing translation at an event because, they don't have a proper guy to do translation. And they're really, really small, tight-knit, humble group. I'll give you an example. Is when I went to Cabo Verde to cover their qualifiers to the World Cup, when they beat Eswatini and qualified for the World Cup, a few days before the game, I wandered into their federation offices just to kind of check it out, to be like, what's going on here? So I wandered in, asked the receptionist, trying to chat to them. And then this guy walks past and they're like, oh, you should speak to him. He's the president. So the president of the Football Federation was there. And this is the same day that they were playing an away match in Libya. So I think for me, that tells you something. The fact that if the president doesn't want to travel with the team, I think for me, that's already a huge bone in his favor. He's not there for the cameras. He wants to be at home working. We chatted for a bit. He then gave me a lift back to the guest house I was staying in. I can't think of any football federation who would just offer to give a random journalist a lift in his car. And so I think that's for me where you see the successes of Cabo Verde. And the one thing that they've lacked often is infrastructure and resources. They've got a bit more infrastructure now. They've built a few training centers. They've got a stadium that they can use full time. Now they're going to get a lot more resources because they'll have made, $20+ million off the back of this World Cup. For me, the question is, can they continue that excellence? Can they continue to work and operate like that with more scrutiny, with a bigger budget, with more eyeballs, and with more people trying to get their slice of the pie? If they can keep doing what they're doing and just keep scaling it up, because there's a lot of talent out there that are from the Cabo Verdean diaspora. There's a lot of talent on the islands. If they can keep doing what they're doing, they will be successful. They will keep growing. But keeping on doing what they're doing, it will be a challenge.
I have 2 coaches and another team in my rundown. And if I've forgotten any news when we're done with those 3 topics, feel free to jump in and sit there and go, John, you forgot this, you moron. Carlos Queiroz comes in, I want to say 71 days before the tournament, and sends and helps Ghana into the depths that they got through this time. But then Carlos Queiroz, after the loss, he's like, yeah, peace out, I'm done. When you look back at this sprint of Carlos Queiroz that might have been 3 months in its entirety, wasn't necessarily a surprise how he got things orchestrated. It was going to be defense first. He's going to have a lot of low scoring matches, and you're going to have to be the one to blink in these staring contests. When you look at what he was able to do in basically a 3-month period, what sticks out?
Yeah, 100%. Look, that's what Carlos Queiroz does. He is that kind of coach. He is not someone who's going to get you playing good football. He's not going to be someone who gets you playing attacking football. My biggest memories of him are 2021 AFCON when he was the Egypt coach, and he got this miserable Egypt team all the way to the final, and they were dreadful to watch. The worst AFCON in terms of quality of football ever, but he got them to the final. He got sent off in the semifinal for complaining with the ref, and he was held as a national hero because of it. because he's very good at that. He's very good at tapping into a national psyche. He's very good at implementing this defensive structure and this us versus them mentality. You saw how quickly he won over the Ghanaian public. So he only ever signed a contract until the end of this World Cup. And then there maybe was scope to extend it, but that was never really on the cards, particularly from his side. And I think he came in, did as well as he could, because I'll be honest, coming into this tournament, I thought Ghana would get knocked out in the group stage. I thought they would draw or lose to Panama. I had no hope for this team because behind the scenes, they're a bit of a mess. And he even said that in his parting statement. He kind of said, look, success in Ghana is not only going to have to come off on the pitch, but it's going to have to come off the pitch. And I think that's where Ghana are as a nation. And so actually, while I think Ghanaians are a little disappointed by the fact that they kind of just didn't lay a glove on Colombia in the knockouts, for me, even the fact that they got to the knockouts was a huge, huge surprise and a success, especially from Quiroz' point of view.
So then who do you think they chase after for Quiroz's replacement? Do you have any kind of, and it might be a name, it might just be a philosophy. What are you thinking here for a successor?
Yeah, look, we're not 100% sure. They've played around with a few people. The most popular choice at prior to the World Cup or prior really to the AFCON was a guy called Tom Samfiet, who had done brilliant work at the Gambia and then had done fairly well at Mali. I think he was put off to most Ghanaians because in the last AFCON with Mali, although he did pretty well, he reached the quarterfinals where they lost to Senegal. They played even worse football than Ghana did at this World Cup. They were so negative. They were so miserable to watch. They were so defensive. And I think a lot of Ghanaians felt that's not what we want, because Ghana is a country that prides itself on playing really good football, that prides itself on, being an iconic team. Their nickname is the Brazilians of Africa. I know Ashraf Hakimi said that Moroccans are called that in Africa. They're not. Only in Morocco are they called that. In the rest of the continent, Ghana are the Brazilians. And so I think that's where they ran into the issue. Look, hiring coaches has been a huge problem for this federation. Time and time again, they seem to get the decisions wrong. They seem to bring in the wrong people. I think Carlos Queiroz is probably their one success of this current federation, this current administration. So I think what they should be doing is they should be trying to replicate what their neighbors Nigeria have done really well, which is bring in a young African coach, a guy called Eric Shell, who is Malian, who coaches Nigeria, and build something, because that's what Ghana have not been able to do. They have not been able to build something. And I think that's what they need to do, is they need to bring in a young, competent coach who actually wants to build something with Ghana, because there are the pieces there. This is not a terrible team. It's not the 2006 team. It's not the 2010 team. It's not the 2014 team, but it's not a bad team. And they should qualify for the next AFCON, and they should be saying, look, we should be getting to those quarterfinals again. Yes, we're not amongst the elite, but we should start building towards joining the elite of African football once again.
Our friend Ali Howorth and his must-subscribe Substack hanging out with us here. When 9 of 10 teams from a particular federation make it in, we continue to have discussions about said federation and how things are going. You mentioned how things are train wrecks, dumpster fires, and what have you. And this particular topic that I'm going to bring up might be insulting to both train wrecks and dumpster fires. Hervé Renard lasts the sum total of 18 days. He didn't even want to deal with that mess after he was done, after they got eliminated and blown out. It's not necessarily a surprise, even though that I believe they had talks with Hervé Renard about hanging out after and taking them through the next cycle, but he didn't want to have anything to do with what's going on there in Tunisia, and he's out the door.
Yeah, 100%. Look, Hervé Renard would definitely not want to stay at Tunisia. He has very, very good reputation on the continent because of his exploits with Zambia and Cote d'Ivoire. He's the only coach to have won the AFCON with 2 different nations. And in fact, prior to the tournament, he was in talks with Senegal because they hadn't given their coach Pape Thiaw a new contract ahead of the tournament. And Pape Thiaw, ahead of the tournament, said, his agent spoke to the federation and said, look, if you don't give him a new contract, we'll walk, and you'll go to the tournament without the World Cup. And actually, Senegal turned around and said, actually, we won't, because we've been speaking to Hervé Renard already to take over, which, speaks to, some of the issues in the Senegalese federation. Look, Tunisia is a mess from a footballing perspective. I think there's a few things we need to bear in mind. Is Tunisia is a tiny country, 12 million people. And they have consistently outperformed that status as a tiny nation. They have qualified, I think, for every single AFCON since 1994. No other country has done that. 17 tournaments in a row that they've qualified for that. They also qualified for more World Cups than any other African nation in the 21st century, which again, given how difficult the African qualifiers have been traditionally up until this tournament, is an incredible achievement. But there is a lot of issues behind the scenes. They've been accused of rampant corruption in the federation. The National League is really struggling. And I think from a Tunisian perspective, that is a big deal. Some nations like Senegal have been very good with their national team whilst being bad domestically with their league football. Tunisia is not like that. They have a very, very established, very, very important league with 4 huge teams: Espérance, Stade Tunisien, Club Africain, Sfaxien, and they are a country that's very proud of their national football league. And when they are doing the best, it's when their big teams are doing well. The best kind of period of Tunisian football was the 2000s when they won the AFCON, their only AFCON title. And that was at the same time when you had Espérance doing really well in the Champions League, Sfaxien doing well in the CAF Confederation Cup. So Tunisian football is in huge need of a reset. It's in huge need of reform. And if they don't, I think this will be the peak, and this nation will only just start backsliding into kind of anonymity from an African perspective.
And you mentioned my third topic, and it has to do with Senegal. And I'm going back to a story from our friends at RMC a handful of days ago and translated. So I'm going to have everybody bear with me here. Headline: flight canceled, players stranded. Senegal's journey ends in a nightmare. Turns into a fiasco, overturned by Belgium after you're up 2-0 and you end up losing. Then you're trying to get out of town. Aftermath of the competition, according to RMC Sport, is just as eventful. According to information from D Sports, the return of the delegation marked by significant disorganization, a consequence of the cancellation of the special flight supposed to bring the Lions of Teranga back home, expected at the airport late Thursday night. The plane never departed as no aircraft were available. Source told local media, quote, "Players went to the airport, but after waiting for hours, there were no flights available. They eventually returned to their hotel. Journalists claim government canceled the plane that was supposed to bring the players and staff back. Quote, the ministry as a state entity didn't take responsibility as it did during the Africa Cup of Nations." This is a source to D Sports. This is linked to the changes that have taken place within that department. So the departure was disorganized. Some able to leave. Papa Gay, Edouard Mendy, Maury Diaw, Jacobs, Idrissa Gueye, and Koulibaly. Others were stuck in the hotel late last week waiting to leave in coming hours. Do you have any kind of an update here?
Yeah, I think they have. Most of them have left. Again, not all together, which I think is the huge shame, because these guys should have gone back to Dakar. They should have kind of not celebrated, but had a chance to meet with people, because that's such a rare thing that we get in international football, and it's something that they've kind of been denied. But a lot of these Senegalese players don't want to go back. They don't want to go back to Senegal. They're fed up with the federation. They're fed up with the Ministry of Sport. They're fed up with the institution. And Senegal are a perfect example where, in some elements of football, they have nailed it in terms of development, in terms of working with private academies. They have been the best of the best in Africa, and that is why they have arguably the best squad. They have some of the most talented players. They've been so good at that. They've also been very good at recruiting from the diaspora. But they, as a federation, have continually let down their team in terms of the way that they manage them. And yeah, I already mentioned how Pape Thiaw didn't even have a contract coming into this tournament. That contract was signed 5 hours before the Norway match. So he coached the game against France without a contract, which is crazy. And again, the Norway one, he didn't get to sign that contract until him and his agent threatened the federation by saying, "I'm not going to show up to the Norway game. I'm not going to come if you don't give me a contract." And for me, that is where this team has been criminally let down. You had the fact that they didn't have their head chef with them. So you had players ordering fast food, in their hotel, and, delegates of the federation who'd paid using federation funds to bring their family members across to the World Cup to stay with the team, which a lot of the team kind of thought was kind of strange. The fact that the players themselves still haven't been paid their bonuses from the AFCON win, despite the government confirming that they have sent the money to the federation. So again, Senegal in no way, shape, or form in the same position as Tunisia, because Senegal have the ingredients there to still be the best team in Africa. If this was a well-run team and a well-run federation, for me, they would still be in this tournament, and they would still be flying high. They would be pushing every single team they play with alongside Morocco, because I think in many ways Senegal are as we saw in the AFCON, are just as good, if not better than Morocco when they get things right. Unfortunately, unlike Morocco have been able to do everything off the pitch right. They have phenomenal infrastructure, amazing facilities. They take care of everything. Senegal haven't been able to do that, and that is ultimately what's letting down this team. And until the federation changes, the government even sent the president's office sent an emissary to the Senegalese camp, essentially to look after them, to be like, we need a grown up in this room to make sure that the federation is behaving themselves. Like the president's office had to send someone. So it kind of just goes to show you how, incompetent a lot of the people running Senegalese football are. And it's such a shame because it lets down this immensely talented group of players.
Yep, and we are going to be keeping an eye on all of that, plus the Morocco match, which is going to be, I believe you're going to be in the air heading back. Is that the time frame here with you?
I'm hoping to arrive, I think, back in the UK just before the game, so I'll probably kind of whip it out on my phone before I can get home.
Yes, so Thursday, 2100 hours local time. France, Morocco in Foxborough, a place that you've been and you have an incredible admiration for, especially for their heating and air conditioning systems. So we will be seeing you next couple of days, and then we know that you're heading out of town. So thank you for coming on this morning, my friend. I know that you've got a jet, so you can try and find a way to get up to Kennesaw and to Marietta to catch up on a couple of practices with Argentina and Egypt, and we will see you downtown. You're gonna be at the MD-1s, right?
Hopefully, I've still got a lot of work I need to get done here before I can get out. But hopefully, I'll get out and be able to make it there in time.
All right. So if we see you at the MD-1s, we see you there. Otherwise, we will see you at noontime tomorrow. So it'll be lunch with Ali Howorth. Hit the promo. Where can folks get your stuff?
As always, you can find me on all my socials, Ali Howorth on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, as well as on Substack and YouTube, Ali's African Football.
And that is where you need to be kept up to date with everything going on in a very, very busy confederation. As always, my friend, great to have you here. Glad you've been spending a lot of time in Decatur, home of Decatur Watch Fest and all the stuff that's been going on here in Atlanta. We will be seeing you either later today in person or tomorrow at Atlanta Stadium. Be safe, my friend. Thanks for all the intel.
Likewise. Thanks so much.
There he goes, Ali Howorth. And it's always great to catch up with him and get the education. I even broke out my Algeria, Kansas T-shirt today. See, I even broke that out. All right. So we've had a couple of things happen while we have been discussing everything African continent and when Abe came on. As of 9:15 this morning, the Royal Belgian Football Association issued a new statement accusing FIFA of making their appeal, quote, inadmissible, adding they have no choice but to, quote, challenge the players' eligibility for the upcoming match, end quote. Paragraph. After learning through media reports of FIFA's decision to lift the automatic suspension of player Balogun, the RBFA sent a letter to FIFA requesting a copy of the decision and explanation of the process that had been followed in setting out its position regarding applicable regulations. As its only response, FIFA sent a letter to the RBFA stating that it considered this correspondence to constitute an appeal, that a judge had been appointed, and that the RBFA had only a few hours to complete that appeal. No information whatsoever was provided by FIFA. Paragraph. For an appeal to be admissible, FIFA's own regulations state that the reasoned decision must first have been communicated to the appellant. While the RBFA was merely seeking legitimate explanations, FIFA itself created an appeal and immediately ensured that it would be declared inadmissible. All of this occurred while FIFA simultaneously refused to respond to the RBFA's legitimate request. Furthermore, during the match coordination meeting, FIFA deliberately removed the section concerning the automatic suspension of players from its presentation. This topic had nonetheless been part of all such meetings before each of the previous 4 matches. The RBFA questioned FIFA both orally and in writing about the reasons for this change. It once again received no response. To be clear, as of this moment, the RBFA has still not received any decision or any explanation from FIFA regarding this matter. It therefore has no alternative but to challenge the players' eligibility for the upcoming match. Regardless of the sporting outcome of this match, the RBFA is deeply saddened by the course of events and will continue to fight in the coming hours, days, and months in defense of the fundamental principles of ethics, fair competition, and the interest of football as a whole, end quote. So suffice to say, the RBFA is not happy. And so now the RBFA turns into a must follow on social media. What you have not had in this, and this is why specifically, and when Abe came in and when Bart is going to be coming in, the presentation that we will be giving in between will be facts on hand. And we will walk through this whole thing. That's why we have a show the length that we do. I have an impression that we're going to be going along, which is fine, because the MD minus ones don't start till the middle of the afternoon. Jason's up. Jason's going to be heading up to Argentina practice. I imagine he's going to be over at Egypt practice as well before he has to be at Park Tavern this afternoon. What we do not have in this entire matter is a disciplinary committee internal to the World Cup. If you had a disco, then you would have a pathway for appealing a red card or appealing a result, what have you. You would have a pathway to determine any questions that you as a national team or a club have about a particular matter. There is no disco here in the World Cup. The question why, which I know is your follow-up, is a question for folks in Lausanne, Switzerland. It is not one we can answer here. But I'm fairly confident that if you had a disco, you would have a pathway, and it would be more transparent than what we're seeing now, where basically FIFA said yesterday afternoon, Article 27. And as we mentioned earlier when Abe was here, it has been used in the past. It just has not been used in a World Cup setting. And what I would also suggest as your required viewing, listening, is go back and catch Atlanta Soccer Tonight from last night. Jason spent the better part of 2 segments looking at the event, history, context, and all of it going forward. So I would recommend go back to the 92. The easiest thing to do is one of 2 things. If you want to do something audio, Odyssey app, Off the Woodwork podcast, 92.9 The Game, go there. The show is up on the 92.9 The Game YouTube channel. So you can go there and listen to it in its entirety, and you can shuttle through the gap space and the commercial breaks and so on. So Jason tackled this a great deal, and I would suggest, as required viewing, listening, reading, to go back and listen to his context that was given in and around the event, and then the announcements that were made yesterday, and once again what has been happening this morning with the RBFA, the Royal Belgian Football Association, as we are leaning into all of this, heading into what's going on tonight at Lumen, where the 12s, and the irony is not escaping me there either, where the 12s will be in play, trying to chase after another Beastquake. And don't be surprised. Like I said, find a local seismologist. If you have friends that are in the business, see if they know a local seismologist in the Pacific Northwest. Because I would imagine that Beastquake 1 and 2, I believe, registered ones. It was like a 1.0 and a 1.1 on the Richter scale. I would imagine if certain things go a certain way, that 1.0 and the 1.1 from Beastquake 1 and Beastquake 2 might be overshadowed by activity tonight if things go a certain way. And since we are going to be discussing that now, as we head into hour number 2, I'm going to bring Bart in, and we're going to have our hydration break before we get into the discussion, because I feel that we're probably going to need to be hydrated for this entire discussion. So, hydration break brought to us by our friends at local Vine Beer, Wine, and Liquor stores, 2 locations in the Atlanta area, Cumberland area, Cumberland Parkway and Cobb Parkway, and Johns Creek. Thanks for being great friends with us here this season. Local Vine Beer, Wine, and Liquor stores starting here in 2026. I'm going to properly hydrate. Bart took his sip. He's ready to go. So go ahead and start your first topic, and I'll follow along.
Well, John, it's a beautiful Monday morning here in Atlanta, Georgia. It's a beautiful Monday morning here in the country of the United States of America because justice has been served and Balogun is free. So, as you look forward to the match today, there's going to be a lot of drama and a lot of hurt feelings from people on the other side of the Atlantic who think everything in the sport should be catered to them. And finally, something does it. And now they're going to crash out because heaven forbid, something go right for the Americans as they're playing soccer. Something that, by the way, historically has not really ever happened before. And we have video evidence from multiple World Cups to prove that we very rarely get the benefit of a referee decision. But this is what happens when Messi plays in your country. You somehow get the benefit of dodgy decisions and oversight committees working in your favor. Enjoy it while it lasts.
Well, the key for one of the keys for me in this is hopefully something that will be addressed. You would have liked for it to have been addressed already heading into this particular kind of a tournament, where there is no disciplinary committee, where you can have any kind of discourse if there is a question when it comes to events on the pitch. And so in Major League Soccer, there is a disciplinary committee. And once again, they are a group that does exist, regardless of what the end result in a conversation may be. It does exist in a league state that we have here in this hemisphere. It does not exist for the Swiss organization that is in charge of the tournament that is currently going on in this hemisphere. That is a question for them. It's not a question for me because I don't have, I do not have the answer as to why that does not exist. So I think that when you look at what went down yesterday, FIFA said what they said, invoking Rule 27, Article 27, whatever specific codicil it is. Rule, yes. And so you have it, and we've gone through all 4 sections of Rule 27. There is no.
It's not a very long section, and it's pretty. I will say, it's not long, and it's pretty straightforward. FIFA can do this if they want to.
Yes, but what?
Wanted to. There you go.
So basically, it turns into what the boss referred to as just cause, and basically it's, well, why'd you do it? Well, just cause. And this is the other issue in this discussion, where yes, you've invoked Rule 27, yet you have not accompanied it with a press conference, a public hearing, folks in front of a microphone, any kind of electronic explanation as to why. You've given no paragraphs, you've given no statements, you have not given the context as to why you have invoked Rule 27, and that is adding to the fire that was brought forward yesterday afternoon when the Falarin Balogun decision was turned under Rule 27. So there are things that should be addressed in the future for future tournaments. 1, the lack of disciplinary committee. 2, the explanation in a timely manner as to why you invoked Rule 27. We can intimate that one of 2 things has happened here, where you're invoking Rule 27. You are looking at your video assistant review and saying that was the reason why, but without any kind of attachment or an email or any kind of reach out on social media or someone behind a microphone. All they're basically doing is Rule 27 just cause, and that gets the ire up with everyone that is looking for additional answers as to, why, but FIFA has not done that yet. And I think that is the other element in this that we need to stare at, is of the 2 problems here. 1, the response for invoking Rule 27, which is, for U.S. soccer fans, they're like, yeah, cool. And not having a disciplinary committee where you can have grievances. And now you're going to special committees and things like that to have hearings come forward. And we just read the statement from the RBFA from about a half hour ago as to sitting there going, we're on the clock for an appeal. We didn't know that. So there are things here that should be addressed to put everyone's mind at ease, yet they have not been so far.
I'm going to just reiterate that something went right for my team, and I'm not going to argue with it. So that's kind of just where I stand. But John, that's just kind of the to your point where FIFA has left us, and I go, cool, great, move on. I do understand a little bit why Belgium. Well, actually, no, I don't. I understand why Belgium is a little upset about it. I think their response has been that of a child throwing a temper tantrum because they were told that no, actually, sorry, little Tommy, little Johnny does get to play with the water gun today because he wants to, and you got to do it last time. Like, I just don't understand why they're acting like this is something that has been done personally to them. But I'm not Belgian and don't have a king, so what do I know? But it does reek of petulance from the European side. It just does. I'm sorry. But at the end of the day, I think what we can ask for from FIFA is a direct statement. Yeah. Saying, even if they just say, hey, we have chosen to invoke Article 27 in the suspension of Folarin Balogun after his red card. Yeah. Even that much, I don't think they need to necessarily give a reason. They can just say the FIFA committee has decided to use it. That's all you need. Sometimes you just need to make the statement that you're doing it. And I think that alone would just make it official, as opposed to like, oh, we had a report of a report and then FIFA confirmed the report, but FIFA is not the one who actually made the announcement type of thing. I think that's where we're getting a lot of muddy waters and hurt feelings. Mm-hmm.
So we do have sound from Mauricio Pochettino that we will play after your segment because it is fairly lengthy. He was asked about it lead off yesterday at the Match Day -1 press conference. We'll play his response coming up in a bit. And yes, Rudy Garcia said what he said, and he got the chuckles out of it by saying, "Well, I didn't know the calendar said it was April 1st." So okay, fine, you got your dig in. That's great. Now you have a match that now Belgium has to prepare for, with, you assume, Folarin Balogun a part of the lineup. Mm-hmm. Once again, until we get to 6:30, 7 o'clock, because of all the off-the-field machinations, we can assume, which is never traditionally a good thing, we can extrapolate, I guess, that Folarin Balogun will be a part of the U.S. lineup. Yeah. Rudy Garcia and Belgium are now having to prepare for a lineup with Folarin Balogun in it. Yeah. So, but I would imagine that they weren't going to just sit there and sit idly by. They're preparing for.
I mean, apparently they were, because that's the way their reaction is sounding. Like, seriously, it sounds like they're going, wait a second, you told us this guy wasn't going to be available, and now, like, oh, okay, got to not be a U.S. fan here for a second, but I'm going to a little bit.
And that's why when you, in this segment, because traditionally when you are here, you're dealing with a couple of different versions of yourself. You are dealing with the stuff. You are dealing with the official version of you, and the American Outlaws version of you, and the SoccerForUSPod version of you. So I'm when we have the different personalities here, I just want you to make sure that everybody knows which personality you're talking about here when you're giving a particular soundbite. I mean, some can figure it out. Yeah. Tone, but when you're going from host to AO, I want everybody to know where you're coming.
This is the somewhat neutral take on what Belgium is doing, because I do feel like, even as a neutral, I'm looking at what Belgium is doing, and it's like you're crying a whole lot over. Okay, I, as a fan of the game, have enjoyed Folarin Balogun over the weeks. He's been really fun to watch. He's been scoring some great goals. But let's not pretend like he's Erling Haaland over here, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where I have an issue with Belgium's reaction. Balogun, he's not just a guy by any stretch, but are you telling me that you're so worried about this U.S. team that, oh my gosh, Folarin Balogun being in the lineup is now all of a sudden make or break you being able to win? I know you're a bunch of old guys out there trying to keep up with the young guys, and you needed a last-second fishy penalty against Senegal, by the way, to even get to this far.
Well, 120 plus 5, I think, is the penalty. But yeah, go ahead.
Like, it just is like, I don't know. It's the crying from them is a little, it's just too sour for me. I'm going, what are we doing here? I think it's absolutely valid to question why FIFA all of a sudden decided to invoke this stipulation that they also invoked for Cristiano Ronaldo, by the way, before the tournament.
Right.
And wonder why they did it right now during the tournament. And again, I think if FIFA were to have at least just released a statement saying we're doing it, it would have created, or it would have eclipsed a lot of the blowback just by saying we're doing it. I don't necessarily think there needs to be a reason. Nowhere in Section 27, Article 27 of the disciplinary handbook does it require FIFA to have a reason to do it. It just says the judicial body may decide.
Yeah.
And they decided. Like, that's it. There's no process or mechanism or if A, then B. There's none of that. They just can go, yeah, we're suspending it. You know, if I'm also trying to look at this as a somewhat neutral.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad thing for, and this is to your point, maybe a disciplinary committee needs to be part of a FIFA World Cup. I don't think it's a bad thing for a disciplinary committee to be able to look at a serious foul play red card and say, okay, this deserves the automatic 1-game ban.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And that,
I think it's fair to say that not every red card, serious foul play foul, red card, is absolutely necessitates a 1-game ban. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Because
that's
sometimes, I mean, look, even last night, which we'll get into it, I'm sure, but it was an absolutely bad foul. Okay. Even then, it's like, well, it was a bad foul. It's serious foul play. It's not like he was not trying to play soccer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if they were to say, hey, actually, we're going to suspend his suspension for a year or whatever, I'd go, yeah, I kind of get it. Like, it's serious foul play. It's a bad foul. He misses. I mean, I think he missed what ended up being 8 hours of a game time after all the stoppage time they added. But I think that also maybe influenced, I think both of those, like, that also influenced why they said, okay, Balogun doesn't need to sit out another game. You missed 30 minutes of the game. And so that's just kind of, I'm not saying it always should be that way, but you just have to look at these and go, okay, yes, the 1-game suspension should be the automatic default go-to punishment for a red card in a game. Mm-hmm. But if you are getting booked for a serious foul play foul, right? That's literally what serious foul play is. It is a foul that you committed while playing soccer. I do think there should be some level of going, okay, does this really actually necessitate a 1-game suspension? Especially when you look at it and go, well, you know, I mean, we've seen some in this tournament or in MLS even where guy gets a card in the 30th minute and you're going, okay, that sucks. This team's going to have to play 60 minutes without a man. That's a pretty big punishment as it is. And I just think that's kind of where I sit now is same as you, John, is there a disciplinary committee for the World Cup would make sense to be able to review all of this and going, okay, does the 1-game ban, does it rise to a 1-game ban? Now, last night, maybe it does, because you could look at it and go, that was a really bad foul. The way he ran for about 30 yards into the foul. He launches himself into it. Maybe a lot of those considerations are up there. And you look at Balogun and you go, look, they were two guys who jostled for the ball. And yes, it puts the player at danger. But, you know, while we don't judge intent, the disciplinary committee can review it a little bit more through that lens and go, this doesn't seem like it's an actual bad foul. It just is an unlucky series of events that leads to a guy getting hurt. So I'm with you in that a disciplinary committee of some sort would have probably also helped this not be such the scandal that it has become.
Right.
I kind of fall into the line of like, look, it was probably a red card on Balogun. Was it given unfairly? Maybe, depending on how you want to look at it. We don't know for sure. And those findings also would have been nice to hear. But at the end of the day, FIFA just said, his suspension suspended unless he does another thing worth being suspended for. And then the suspension is rescinded and he's suspended.
That sounds like something that you would either hear in a lyric in an off-Broadway play or a Monty Python sketch, what you just said.
It feels very Animal House.
Yeah, well, it's true. Yeah. Yeah, they took the bar. So, but at the end of the day, yes, we want to examine what's going on. We want to grow the game, and that's why I'm presenting all of these different outputs here with within the context of where we are. And so I'm trying to do this as journalistically and level-headedly as possible under the context of knowing that there's a game at 8:00 tonight where we're up against all of this. And the RBFA apparently has been told that, when you asked us questions in a meeting, that constituted an appeal. And so keep an eye on all of this as a part of what's going on involving the matchup tonight at 8:00. Where are you going to be tonight at 8:00, by the way?
Well, the weather depending, Decatur Watch Fest.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
Last night, they obviously had to cancel a lot of their events because of weather. So,
yes.
John, I want to kind of close this by saying that as the fan, I really do want to just reiterate, it's about dang time the U.S. gets some, this sounds so silly, but it's about dang time we get something that goes in our favor from these types of decisions, because even in CONCACAF, it seems like time and time again, we get a decision that's like, wait, how did that go against us? Or even within the match, the Bosnia match, you're going, okay, they have fouled us 27 times and didn't get a yellow card until their coach decided to literally come onto the field holding the ball, yelling and screaming at the referee. So I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for people when Bosnia was very lucky to not have finished. They were lucky to finish the game with 11 players. And had another referee been refereeing that, they should have been booked multiple times for a stopping a promising attack offense. Multiple times in the first half, let alone what happened in the second half. So that's where I just don't have the bandwidth to go, okay, well, y'all are all mad that we got a red card, which, okay, sure, you can. I'm not against that being a red card. He endangers the player's safety, definitely puts studs into the foot. Okay, fine, it's a red card. Where is the outrage for the referee not adjudicating the match properly the rest of the time? That's what I want to know, because everyone's focused on Balogun and not going, well, the referee had a terrible time of it and did not apply the laws of the game fairly at all under the way that we're supposed to apply the laws of the game. So which one are we crying about being fair or unfair right now?
And so that's why we try to have the multiple versions of you come here on the show on Monday.
But that's also my referee. That's also my referee, because that's my thing, is as a referee, I'm looking at that game going, wait a second. That's a yellow card for stopping a promising attack. He grabbed his jersey as he's running by in the midfield. I've been chastised for that before. Why is this dude, who's, one of the best referees in Brazil, allowed to not give a yellow card for that? So that is my referee point of going, yeah, okay, that's a red card. But if I'm a referee and I'm looking at this game film as a study session, I'm going, but wait a second. What's your reasoning for not giving yellow cards for those incidents? Because that's the confusion that I had during the matches going, okay, Bosnia is very clear. And that's the thing. This gets into referee mechanics and preparation. If you didn't know Bosnia was going to play that way, and Herzegovina, I can't leave them out. Sorry. If you didn't know they were going to play that way, you didn't do your job as a referee to prepare for the match. And so maybe he did know that, and he decided, let him get away with a couple shirt pulls and kicks or, targeting fouls. But then you all of a sudden need to lay the hammer down when a dude falls on top of another dude and steps on his foot.
Yep. And this is why we always want to have these discussions about equality in, personality when it comes to making these kinds of calls. Yeah. It was 20 fouls called in the match, 13 on Bosnia and Herzegovina, 1 yellow, and 7 fouls committed by the United States and the 1 red by Balogun. So that was so 20 fouls were called in that match, 13 to Bosnia Herzegovina and number 17 versus number 64. So weather permitting, you'll see Bart at Decatur Watch Fest. Last night at the Azteca, there were 2 moments that I guess that I'll start with, and if there's any that I might have missed in my initial analysis, go ahead and hit me with them. Jarrell Kwanzaa, Declan Rice. Jarrell Kwanzaa.
Okay.
I mean, Jarrell Kwanzaa is studs up. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're rolling over the ball and then you see the foot from Kwanzaa
Well,
come in.
it doesn't, because when your foot was already a couple inches off the ground before making contact even with anything. Yeah, like I when I first saw that, I went, okay, yeah, that's a hard foul. And then I saw the replay. I was like, oh, his foot is elevated.
Yeah.
His back leg does get the ball. I think that's absolutely correct to say. Unfortunately, his lead leg absolutely does not, and takes the player out. And that's really what's going to end up with the red card there, especially with the way his studs are pointed at the leg and the way they make contact on the leg, even without having to worry about going over the ball. That was a red card. It just is. It meets a lot of almost every element of the series foul play qualifications we have, and it was a red card, especially once you looked at the replay. Because again, when I saw it in live action, I did think, and this is where no shade at the referee, he's running across, and his view shows, for the most part, the back leg getting the ball, and the front leg is not terribly out of place. It's nothing bad. Okay, we play on. As soon as you look at the replay from an angle that no referee would have, by the way, because it was from the goal line looking up, basically, you go, oof. Oh boy. That's a red card.
Yes. Declan Rice last night. And there are obviously...
Talk to me about Declan Rice.
Declan Rice, lucky, I'm thinking, not to have been sent off, where it ends up as a... it was in the first minute of the match, basically. And Declan Rice ends up coming toward the player for Mexico, and ends up making contact with the boot to the side of the head. And literally, and you see as he's trying to make the challenge for the ball, he ends up making contact, cleat to the side of the head, and he ends up getting that yellow in literally the first minute. So
yeah, okay. This is nothing. Okay.
I'm
gonna say something, and I'm not. I'm gonna say something, and I'm not being mean toward the Mexican team. All I'm saying is Gilberto Mora is 5'2" on a good day. He is bending down to head this ball, and Declan Rice's foot is elevated in a higher than normal way. But I think the reason this is not a red card is because it's very clearly a player bending down, a player slightly elevating his leg more than it should have been. It's a foul. It's a kicking foul. This is not serious foul play. This is careless, definitely reckless. This is not excessive force. This is not unduly endangering an opponent more than you normally would within a soccer game, because again, the player, who is already very short, is bending his head down and bending his waist to get to the height of the ball. He happens to go in with the head. Declan Rice going in with his foot. It's a yellow card for being reckless, for sure. It really doesn't rise above that. And I thought the referee was good to quickly give a yellow card, give a hard whistle for this, after making sure that we didn't have any other advantages that could play on. But I thought he handled this very first incident in the match pretty well by asserting himself, saying, no, we're not doing this in this match. That is a yellow card, and we're moving on. Obviously, this can be reviewed by VAR, and I think, again, giving the yellow card as a statement of recognition, not intent, recognition of that's a bad foul. VAR can look at it and make sure that it's not anything worse. But, especially in that incident, you had the referee looking at it where it's not necessarily in the area where your AR would make the call, but your AR is there to also see what happened. And I think had the AR seen something worse, he probably would have told the referee, hey, I think that's a red card. Or at least they would have communicated a little bit. But I think this was handled well for a first minute foul that was, again, I don't think it was anything above reckless. It wasn't excessive force. It wasn't done with any, it didn't really endanger the player because, again, the player is putting his head down and bending down to get to the height of the ball. That is, I'm not saying you're inviting yourself to be kicked in the head because you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Obviously, you get a foul and a yellow card on the other team for it, but you are accepting some level of risk when you do that as well. And so, again, I thought the Declan Rice decision was a very good decision to start the game off and set the tone for this game, because I thought this referee, for the most part, handled the chaos decently. I thought no one was going to handle this game decently, especially once Mexico. Okay. Same thing that happened last night. I thought it was going to be neutral, John. And then Mexico started doing Mexico things. And I was like, nope, can't do it. Especially when Mexico started losing. And we know that when Mexico starts losing, they act like spoiled children who have never been told no in their lives.
Well, and then you could also say the same thing when England went down a man after the Kwanzaa yellow, trying to fall down and flop and get an equalizer.
And then they said, okay, we'll do it too. Yeah. Both teams are very, I think, have the reputation for being overhyped and spoiled. Let's just put it that way. I think that's a fair assessment of both federations in their history. And so I think he did a pretty decent job, all things considered. I don't think the match ever got out of control from a physicality standpoint. I agree with you about the flopping and a little bit of the, extracurriculars in that way. But for the most part, the game was played in a safe and fair manner, which is the job of the referee out there. And I thought he did a decent enough job of making sure that it stayed there for a game that literally played on I think it's played on top of a volcano or something like that. I know Mexico City is near a volcano that could have erupted at any moment. And he didn't have a moment that erupted anything and I thought he got most of the big decisions correct. Again, I thought the yellow card for Rice was correct. The red card was correct. The penalty was correct. I mean, probably should have called that against Congo. Let's be real honest. He doesn't call the penalty from the MLS Academy product initially, but then is very quick to look at VAR and go, oh, yeah, okay, makes contact. Cool, we got a penalty. I mean, it's an innocuous penalty. I don't think Harry Kane meant to, foul Gutierrez like that, but it's a penalty. You kicked him on, yeah.
You were second to make
Gutierrez,
contact. Yeah. Gutierrez makes contact with the ball first. Kane's coming through on the follow through, makes contact with Gutierrez. To me, that's like,
it's a foul. Yeah, it's a foul. It's a penalty. And probably when he first saw it, he thought that Kane probably kicked the ball as well. That's probably what he saw. And then you go look at it, you go, oh, yep, that's a penalty kick. And so again, I thought he got his big decisions correct. His what we call match critical incidents were spot on for the most part. Even if he didn't make them correct in the moment, use the tools given to him to get the correct call. Yes, we had a lot of stoppage time. I don't think we had an undue amount of stoppage time added at the end of stoppage time.
Yeah. Because
when you're going to have 11 minutes of added time, John, you're going to have especially in a match like this, you're going to have other delays. And, he gave them 2 corner kicks and said, all right, well, you got 2 chances. We're done. And so I thought he did manage this match in a pretty decent way, given what could have happened.
Yeah. All right. So that leads me to just a general question. Let me save my question. Are there any other moments that stuck out to you that you felt like needed addressing from the weekend?
Let me go through.
Or do we pretty much
go back
to
the games that happened? I got to remember which games I watched, John.
But then,
should we? I don't really want to talk too much because I think we all agree. But the Paraguay-France match.
Yeah, I mean, it was what it was. Now. But you get that in CONMEBOL and Libertadores and Sudamericana. So for me, that was just like France getting indoctrinated into CONMEBOL. So I mean, that's fine.
I'll give France credit though. They I won't say they were up to that challenge, but they understood a little bit. Okay. and they knew the goal was just to win the game. And that's how you deal with CONMEBOL teams like that, or CONCACAF teams like that, where the U.S. has had this issue for the longest time where they'll go into Panama and they get sucked into this and they forget that the goal of the game is to win the game.
Mm.
And Panama's goal of the game is not necessarily to win the game. Your goal has to be to win the game. Paraguay's goal of the game is certainly not to win the game. They have not played a game to win at all.
Their goal is to survive to get it to a point. That is Paraguay is to navigate going on in front of them, because if you go, and I was making this analogy with the boss, and I said, look, Paraguay and France, if you wanted to sit there and think about it like NC State and Houston, the Jim Valvano championship game, where he mentions that they're going to do 4 corners and they're not going to put drive or do anything and put the ball on the ground at all. Then there's the part of the documentary where I think it was one of the assistant coaches says, and Derek Wittenberg, they say that Valvano comes in before the game starts and he's like, we're not doing any of that. And it's some bleepity bleep. And it's like, Derek, you're going to hit threes, and Sid, you're going to be passing, and and Thurl, you're going to be inside doing this. And it wasn't that way at all. Literally, it was Paraguay is going to navigate this game because they can't go head to head athletically with France. So that means they're going to go to this extreme. And Gustavo Alfaro, look, I knew that's what you were going to do. You're not going to go head to head and try to trade. You're not going to try and trade haymakers with France for 15 rounds. That's not going to work. So you've got to do what works within your framework. And if that means bumping folks, if that means figuring out where the line is and figuring out, okay, how do we not
punching your own self in the face and blaming the other team?
And, if you don't have folks that want to respond to that, once again, your philosophy is to navigate 90, possibly navigate another 120 and get it to where it was like when you were going up against Germany the round before. So look, I have zero qualm. I know that's where you were coming from, and it's up to the folks with the whistles and the flags to navigate that and set the bar for whatever behavior is going to be there. So that it's just an understood. Welcome to CONMEBOL France.
And again, I thought maybe not well, but again, France has remembered the goal is to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that they did.
Mm-hmm. And so
they didn't put 4 past them like the U.S. did, but hey, they won the game. Good for them.
Yeah. And so that at the end of the day, just for my own personal edification, if you are in the ascendancy, if you have possession of a ball, we saw it obviously last night at the end of Mexico and England, as Mexico is continuing to try to add unsuccessful crosses to the 13 of 52 that they had late. Then when it comes to going past the time that is allotted on the clock, how do you gauge, okay, if the team that is still trying to chase after an equalizer is still in possession and they're still attacking and they still have attack momentum, but we're north of the time that was allotted, how do you figure out, okay, we get to add X amount of time going forward, they're still attacking, and then you blow a whistle and you're wondering what would happen here. So that in that particular moment, how are you gauging, okay, how far do I go here?
Well, the basic instruction is, for the most part, when the time is up, the time is up.
Mm-hmm.
We are probably going to allow a little bit of time. Like, say I'm at, so like last night, it was 11 minutes. So say I'm at 125.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm not worried about this. I got time. What if I'm at 150, right? 100 minutes, 50 seconds. Mexico gets a corner kick, which I think is exactly what happened. All right, we'll let that corner kick go on. Oh, immediately that corner kick is headed out. You get another one. Okay, we can let that one go. Basically, once I'll do this a lot of times, actually, and we are kind of instructed to say this. You're more than welcome to say, this is it, last action, right? And I think the referee in his head had this, and because they didn't go that much farther over the 11 minutes of added time, which again, in a game like this, a knockout round game, if you're going to give 11 minutes, you're probably giving almost 13. Let's just be real honest, because of the things that are going to happen. I was a little shocked England didn't make another sub in the added time period, but I think they were like, let's just get through this. I don't think he had an issue with adding a couple. I think he added 2 total corner kicks after time had come. But just having the ball is not enough. I just want that to be like having the ball in possession is not enough for the game to keep going on. As a referee, and this is something I try to tell people as well, is like 4 minutes is 4 minutes. You also, though, know that it says a minimum of 4 minutes. You may say it's probably like 4:20-ish. Okay. Like, you know, once we get to 4 minutes, I'm looking for a place to stop the game.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that it is, hey, we're at 4, we're done. I want people to understand that. Just because the board says 4 minutes does not mean it's 4 minutes. Just because it says 6 minutes does not mean 6 minutes. That is a minimum of whatever. And so a lot of times, so for example, I have an app on my watch, my smartwatch, that allows me to track time lost basically during the game. And a lot of times it'll be like, especially my games, it'll be like 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Okay, well, that means I put up 2 and say, hey guys, we got 2 minutes left. Because it's a minimum of 2 minutes. I'm not going to 3.
Yeah.
So you're looking just for that time to go, yeah, okay, the immediate danger is done. Here we go. Having the ball is not enough. Having possession is not enough. Even making an attacking movement is not necessarily enough. But we tend to not want to blow the game during an attacking movement.
Right.
Because safety, personal safety.
Yeah.
Especially last night. But like, I think last night was a good example of, okay, you got a corner kick. Oh, okay, you got another one. We'll let you have that one. It wasn't really like it was oh, they cleared it and they got another corner kick. No, it was, they cleared it immediately out for a corner kick. We'll let you have that.
Yeah. Okay.
England cleared it out. Yes, Mexico took the ball, but it was like, well, you've already had your chances. Okay. So I thought he handled the end of the match well as well. No matter what time you blow the whistle, though, Mexico and their fans are going to be mad and think that you should have given them 8,000 more minutes because that's how they believe. And again, you gave them plenty of time. So there's not a firm answer to your question.
Right.
The reality is possession does not mean that we keep playing. And every referee kind of has their own way of going, like in the match, how they feel. Okay, we're done.
Okay.
Which I know is not a great answer, but that's just as
well. But also at the same time, there were other matches that, there was a match that I was a part of over the weekend with the twos, and you were north of that minute that was on the clock, and the twos were literally ready to serve a cross in. They had just sent a pass out to the left wing. They were about ready to serve a cross in literally they were in attacking phase, and they're ready to pounce inside the 18 into the first half. Ref blows the whistle. And that's why, in addition to what we saw last night and what I saw in Athens,
I will say that the first half, I'm way more likely to go, we're done into the first half, 100%. Okay. And I know that sounds weird. We're supposed to play 2 equal halves of soccer. That's in the laws of the game. The second half ending is not equal to the first half ending. Let's just be real honest, right? And so to your point, a lot of times the first half I'm going, yeah, we're done. There's a minute. Because you just don't have a whole lot of added time usually in the first half, which means there's no reason to add more time to the added time because we haven't lost that much time in the game. And remember, a ball going out of play does not mean we're adding extra time, right? Added time is for stoppages of play.
Yeah.
So not even technically substitutions or goals scored are part of that.
Yeah, player down.
Now, a lot of times, right. A goal celebration, right? Maybe a sub that takes more time than it should.
Yeah.
But now, especially with the 10-second rule, that's generally not happening. Yeah. So we don't actually have a lot of things we have stoppage time for. So, yeah.
Okay. So that was just something that stuck in my head. SoccerForUSPod, you going to do something after the match?
It depends on how it goes. Depends on how it goes, John. If we win, we might not. Obviously,
I was going to say
the opposite happens. We'll definitely be having a conversation.
Yeah, because if there is a victory this evening, you might be taking your time being a part of the celebration that is attached to said victory, and so the time frame.
I do. Can I answer this question in the chat though? Sorry,
Which
this
one?
is a good question. Turner and Abby have a question. Who decides
Okay.
the time that the put on the board? I need people to understand the center of the referee is in charge of all of this. The fourth official and VAR may be counting for him, especially nowadays. I think fourth and the VAR, especially the AVAR, have better mechanisms to keep track of the time. But all decisions are made by the center referee, including offside.
Yeah,
which is, you don't want to hear that, but they're the ones. So they may say to the fourth, like, "Hey, I got like 5 minutes," and the fourth may go, "Yeah, that sounds right," or "Yeah, that's what I had to," or the AVAR, the fourth official, whoever is for these matches, because these are way higher matches, may say, "Hey, we've clocked 6 minutes," and the center may go, "Yeah, we're gonna add 7 because yes, you clocked 6 minutes, but spiritually it's more 7." So it is the center official who makes the final decision on that. Obviously, they're a team, and he takes input and information from the rest of his team, just as, like I said, with offside or balls in and out of play. I take the information that my assistant gives me on if the ball went out of play or if the player was offside. I'm the one who gets to make the final decision. So the center official is the one who makes that final decision and says, "Okay, yeah, put, I don't know, 11 up or 1." So that is up to the center official. He'll just communicate with his team to figure out the final number.
Okay. And that's why we bring you in here on Mondays. So Soccer for USPOD, keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on Bart, because he will be hanging out in front of O'Sullivan's or getting Jenny's or all the above.
I might get Jenny's tonight. Actually, that does sound good.
See, I mean, I know my Watch Fest. I know the main drag there, and I know that it's going to be very, very crowded tonight. So conserve your energy, sir. Get all the work done, and be seen at the Decatur Watch Fest tonight. And may the weather cooperate with you. It's always great to see you, my friend. Thanks for the clarification.
Likewise.
And being a part of stuff here on a Monday.
Bye, y'all.
All right, big good. There goes Bart. And so, all right. I know we're going long because we got other things that have drifted in here. Okay. Alex Crook and Ben Jacobs. TalkSport has been told Jordan Henderson is in a Mexico City hospital awaiting transfer to Kansas for operation to a broken radius, bone in the arm, following the freak accident in post-game celebrations. For those of you that missed it, it was after they had done Wonderwall to the fans in that end zone. And then you start to have players hopping over the signboards. And Henderson, in trying to hop over the signboard, didn't do it 100% successfully and tried to brace his fall, and on the way down broke the radius in his arm. And so for those that confuse the radius and the ulna, it is obviously it's one of the two large bones, and it is the one that is on the outside. It is the one that is on the thumb side of the arm. So you'll look at the injury. You'll look at Jordan Henderson going over the signboard, coming back into the field of play, and as he's trying to brace himself going down, you see him kind of fall under the weight of hitting the turf at the Azteca. And so he is being treated for a broken radius. So it is the thumb side of the arm. The ulna is the pinky side. Radius is the thumb side. So the thumb side, where Jordan Henderson was putting his hand down, that's the bone that broke and was not able to brace the fall in a manner that was where he wasn't going to hurt himself. And so he tried to brace himself with the fall. And so Jordan Henderson breaks the radius. Remember, thumb side, radius is the thumb, ulna is the pinky. So ulna, pinky, UP, up. So the radius and the thumb, RT, think retweet. So retweet, radius, thumb, up, ulna pinky. So retweet and up. And so it was the retweet that was broken, according to Alex Crook at TalkSport and Ben Jacobs, as they're releasing that information. So he's in a Mexico City hospital waiting for transport back to Kansas so they can look at the broken bone on the thumb side. So it's broken radius, and that is what you're looking at with that particular injury. Waiting transfer back to Kansas, so I imagine you're going to have Jordan Henderson wearing a sling, and he will probably be given some fairly decent pain medication. So literally after the match was over, and the video's out there, it's on a bunch of different things. But Jordan Henderson's trying to come back over the signboard, tries to brace his fall as he wasn't going to be landing on his feet. And so as he's falling down, tries to brace his fall, and it's the left radius. And so in a Mexico City hospital, waiting transport back to Kansas so they can take a look at that arm. And so that was also addressed by Thomas Tuchel after the match. And we're going to be kind of drifting in and out of here with news and notes and things. UEFA, as is their purview. UEFA is the one group that we have not been able to mention this morning. UEFA obviously came out with a statement, and it was a statement against what happened with FIFA. So this morning, and it was probably 5:30 this morning, our time, Eastern Time, U.S. UEFA yesterday's decision to suspend for a probationary period of a year the implementation of the one-match automatic suspension following the red card issued to the player Folarin Balogun crossed the red line. Football, like any other sports, relies on rules, which are the basis for fair, honest, and transparent competition. Sometimes rules are open to interpretation, in this case not. A minimum automatic suspension of one match following a red card is not a discretionary option and does not require the decision of a competent body to be enacted. It is a principle embedded in regulations which cannot be made subject to exceptions, let alone in the middle of a tournament where several other players have been in the same situation and regularly serve their suspension. When the certainty of rules is no longer guaranteed by its guardians, the integrity of the game is at stake and the credibility of competition is undermined. Equally, such decision creates a precedent in the ongoing tournament where similar situations will now require an equal treatment to the detriment of the competition. Football is the most loved sport in the world because it is a beautiful game and is trusted because it is played everywhere with the same laws. A tournament is never a pure standalone, and if the tournament in question is the World Cup, it has the power to drive positive or negative consequences on the game as a whole. We express our disbelief at such an unprecedented, incomprehensible, and unjustifiable decision. So that is UEFA's response to the reinstating of Folarin Balogun under Rule 27. That came out at 5:30 this morning. And so obviously they're going to back their partner in the Belgian FA. And so waiting now, obviously, for more statements from UEFA as we go. Once again, keep an eye on this as we get closer and closer and closer to 8 o'clock Eastern time tonight in match time. Martin Ziegler also produced the membership list of FIFA's disciplinary committee that lifted the suspension and of the appeal committee, which will rule on Belgium's appeal. The disciplinary committee chair was from the UAE. Deputy chair was from Colombia. Members from Togo, Saudi Arabia, Tahiti, Tunisia, Trinidad and Tobago, Robert Haddad. And that being CONCACAF, that might have raised a bit of an eyebrow. Austria, Singapore, Paulo Lopez from Mexico, Mastrandia from Italy, Honduras, Brazil, Vietnam, Paraguay, Czechia, Ecuador, Tonga. That was the disciplinary committee that lifted the suspension. That is who is on the disciplinary committee. Sorry, that is on the disciplinary committee. That is who is on it. We don't know who were the individual or individuals that decided to suspend the suspension. And then the appeal committee, which is supposed to rule on Belgium's appeal, the chair is Neil Eggleston from the U.S. He is going to have to recuse. Deputy chairs from Sweden, members from Qatar, Iran, Colombia, Guatemala, Germany, Papua New Guinea, Sao Tome and Principe, Argentina, Fiji, Botswana, Turks and Caicos, and Russia. Why you have an individual from Russia on the appeal committee, it's not an answer I can give you. So UEFA came out with a statement, and we are now in statement back and forth for the foreseeable future. Monaco confirming Felipe Luis is their new head coach on a 2-year deal. That's from our buddy Ben Jacobs. Nottingham Forest confirming Oliver Glasner has now joined on a 3-year deal. Once again, that's also from Ben Jacobs. And shocking no one, Jordan Henderson set to miss the rest of the World Cup because of that injury. So obviously we'll keep an eye on that. But right now, waiting for transport back to Kansas so they can address the injury. Trying to see if there's anything else. Sandro Tonali has signed his 100 million pound club record deal. And Arsenal have made their second Frauen Bundesliga swoop of the summer with Selena Cercis with that signing. So, once again, the Belgian Federation is challenging FIFA's decision. And that is the other part in this. So, they were under the understanding that they were going to be able to appeal, but then when they asked questions, it was considered to be, oh, well, that's your appeal. And Belgium is looking for answers as a soccer federation as to why that was considered to be an appeal when all they wanted to do is ask questions. The Royal Belgian FA. Royal Belgian FA is their 280 character account. And like I said, that the statement came out an hour ago from the Federation. We'll go over it again for some of you that might have missed it in the first hour of the show. RBFA wanted to publicly explain the events of the past few hours. After learning through media reports FIFA's decision to lift the automatic suspension of player Balogun, RBFA sent a letter to FIFA requesting a copy of the decision, an explanation of the process that had been followed in setting out its position regarding the applicable regulations. As its only response, FIFA sent a letter to the RBFA stating that it considered this correspondence to constitute an appeal, that a judge had been appointed, and that the RBFA had only a few hours to complete that appeal. No information whatsoever was provided by FIFA. This is from the RBFA this morning. For an appeal to be admissible, FIFA's own regulations state that the reasoned decision must first have been communicated to the appellant. While the RBFA was merely seeking legitimate explanations, FIFA itself created an appeal and immediately ensured that it would be declared inadmissible. All this occurred while FIFA simultaneously refused to respond to the RBFA's legitimate requests. Furthermore, during the match coordination meeting, FIFA deliberately removed the section concerning the automatic suspension of players from its presentation. This topic had nonetheless been part of all such meetings before each of the previous 4 matches. The RBFA questioned FIFA both orally and in writing about the reasons for this change, yet once again received no response. To be clear, as of this moment, the RBFA has still not received any decision or explanation from FIFA regarding this matter. It therefore has no alternative but to challenge the player's eligibility for the upcoming match, regardless of the sporting outcome of this match. RBFA is deeply concerned by the course of events. Will continue to fight in the coming hours, days, and months in defense of the fundamental principles of ethics, fair competition, and the interest of football as a whole. Now, when UEFA posted their statement, it was let's see, Royal Belgian FA. I'm going to have to remember that one. So when UEFA posted their statement, sometimes rules are open to interpretation, in this case not. Paragraph 2. A minimum automatic suspension of 1 match following a red card is not a discretionary option and does not require the decision of a competent body to be enacted. I would send the notes from the BBC to UEFA from this morning to remind them about how Rule 27 has been enacted in the past. And then you had other notes yesterday in the appeals process saying that this rule and this rule counteracted Rule 27, but it seemed like the process had been kind of flipped on its head when the Royal Belgian Football Association tried to use Article 66.4, clearly providing that a red card automatically results in suspension for the team's next match. And so, yes, but then you go to 27.1. Judicial body may decide to fully or partially suspend the implementation of a disciplinary measure. So it is 27.1 that is superseding what the RBFA was looking at, with the red card automatic resulting in a suspension. Then they go to 10.5. Player or team official sent off as a result, automatically suspended from their team's subsequent match. In addition, further sanctions may be imposed. See now, if you use 10.5, and then they also reference a circular that was put out on May 12th of 2026, and in the match coordination meeting. But if I'm looking at this from the letters of the law as spelled out by the RBFA when they came out with their initial release yesterday afternoon, the end of Article 10.5 legitimately says, in addition, further sanctions may be imposed. Then you can go back to 27.1. It's an additional sanction. It just happens to be the suspension of the red card suspension. So the RBFA might have given other folks a door in here in that statement from yesterday. I would think 27.1 could be construed at the tail end of 10.5. In addition, further sanctions may be imposed. It just so happens that that sanction is the suspension of the red card. So using 10.5 may not have served the RBFA well in their initial response, in addition to 66.4 that talks about the sending off resulting in the next team match. So if you take what the RBFA put together yesterday, mentioning sending offs and suspensions, the tail end of what they reference opens the door to what FIFA used for the first time within a World Cup tournament. It's been used before leading into it, as we talked about from what the BBC put out this morning, or back in, the BBC put out back in late November, when Cristiano Ronaldo had his suspension suspended. And that's probably how we're just going to refer to it, as a suspended suspension. So when the BBC did the legwork last November around Thanksgiving about the decision on Cristiano Ronaldo, yes, it was outside. It was leading into a World Cup. It was not within a World Cup. So keep an eye out on all of this. And this is where we like to take the time and have folks, this is where we're going to have long sound bites, long conversations to walk through the whole thing. So we can come up with as many different statements, ideas, points of view, and reference points when it comes to having this kind of a conversation. So that's kind of where we are in this process. And obviously, we're not done with it this morning. But what I do want to do is I want to kind of get into the preview a little bit, but this is Mauricio Pochettino's opening statement from yesterday in the MD-1s. And he was asked, I believe it was by Stephen Goff, about what he thought about the decision. And so here is his response yesterday, Mauricio Pochettino's, when he was asked about the Folarin-Balogun decision that was put forth when FIFA exercised Rule 27. So here is the conversation yesterday from the press conference where Mauricio Pochettino was asked what he thought about the decision. And so here is his response once again at the MD-1 yesterday. Here's Mauricio Pochettino.
Well, my reaction, I think, is like everyone that really love that the sport and trust on the ethic and integrity. I think we celebrate all that decision. We were punished enough against Bosnia-Herzegovina to play with 10 men, 30 minutes, in a decision that was complete unfair. But it's not only because I am the head coach of the U.S. men's national team, I need to defend my side. It's only because I think it's a 100% or 99%, because always some people, but 99.9% that we all, agree that was an unfair red card. Maybe today we were not here talking in between us, because if we consider a goal and we played 30 minutes more, we played 35 minutes with 10 men, and we go and play 30 minutes more than 1 hour, and we concede again and we lose the game. Today we are not talking, and no one is going to talk about this. That is why I understand. Maybe if I should be in another position, I know Rudy. I love Rudy. He's a great coach, but he's a great person. Of course, he needs to defend his side. But I think integrity, ethic is a global, word that you cannot use in a specific situation. And I think more fair than that is impossible. You don't believe that we were punished enough? And then, that is not the first time that happened. If you go back, and I'm not going to tell, situation, that situation happened before, this type of situation and decision, or not. But I'm not going to denounce, I'm not going to go too much further, but I think we need to celebrate that we, I think it's fair, that decision, that not to punish more us, because I think was enough. And now focus on the game, and all that we can talk is about, things that I think are not helping football or soccer, and we need to be focused and to try to tomorrow to challenge a very good team like East Belgium. That's going to be really tough and in a fair condition for us.
Mauricio Pochettino, head coach of the U.S. men's national team. And so that was his response yesterday at the MD-1. All right, so that is 8 o'clock tonight. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I missed with all of the information that we have. I think that we're up to date when it comes to the USMNT and FIFA and UEFA and the Royal Belgian FA. I think we're up to date. Obviously, if things continue to evolve, we'll keep you posted this morning and this afternoon about everything as we get you ready for the two matchups, one coming up in 4 hours and one coming up at 8 o'clock tonight. So yesterday, once again, Norway over Brazil. And literally because of everything that we've spent with the U.S. men's national team, we really haven't had a chance outside of our catch-up with Ali Howorth to remind you what happened yesterday. It was a 2-1 win for Norway over Brazil. Neymar gets the late PK, and then he announces after the match that he's done when it comes to worldwide competition. So if you think about it, Cristiano Ronaldo had his press conference alongside Roberto Martinez as they were getting ready for Spain and Portugal, which is a matchup that goes back a good 1,200 years. The whole Iberian Peninsula thing. Cristiano Ronaldo announces after this one he's done. Neymar announced that he's done. Javier Aguirre, after the match last night with Mexico, he's retiring. Memo Ochoa, done with the loss. So you literally had 4 individuals, either through event or through their own announcement yesterday, say that they're done. Luka Modric lost when Croatia lost to Portugal. We're anticipating his international career is done, and maybe his career in the overall is done. There's a lot to look at here with all of these folks. And I know that we're kind of laying out number 10 for Argentina, but I ain't putting nothing past him now. A lot of folks were saying, yeah, after Qatar in 22, yeah, you're done at the age of 35. Hold my beer. So as of yesterday, Cristiano Ronaldo, Neymar, Javier Aguirre, Memo Ochoa, either by act or by word, are done at the end of this tournament. So once again tonight, this afternoon, it is Portugal and Spain, followed by the U.S. and Belgium. And go to your favorite establishment and make sure that you partake as best you can and enjoy the day. Maybe bring an extra set of clothes because it might get schwitzy and might get wet. Take an umbrella with you if you're going to be going outside, going out in public. Like I said, the boss is going to be doing she's going to be watching the match in Decatur. May not necessarily be at Watchfest, but she will be there. So if you see her, say hi. And that sets us up for tonight. Once again, the juice boxes. We mentioned that the United States is a favorite for the late game. And they are at a plus 150. At least they were when the show started. They're down to a plus 145. Belgium is now up to a plus 188. So USA's number has gone down. Belgium's number has gone up when the opposite should be true. So Belgium has turned into more of an underdog at a plus 188. The U.S. is getting more action. They're now more of a prohibitive favorite at a plus more of a lesser favorite at a plus 145. And 90-minute draws a plus 250. This afternoon, Spain a minus 108 as they're going to be playing Portugal at Jerry World. 90-minute draws a plus 265. And Portugal is a plus 320. So Portugal is a dog against Spain, understandably so. The U.S. is a favorite, less so than they were previously when the show started, going up against Belgium. Tomorrow at noon, Argentina and Egypt. Argentina prohibitive favorite. Egypt is a plus 900, by the way. That one's at noon in Atlanta Stadium, hoping to see everybody there. Tomorrow, just to give you an idea, tomorrow's a power hour from 8 to 9. That's it, because we got to get into the building. Switzerland and Colombia. Colombia, 4 o'clock, is favored at a plus 129. Switzerland is a plus 260. 90-minute draw is a plus 210. That one is at BC Place in Vancouver. So afternoon delight in Vancouver. Now, trying to see if there's anything else that I might have missed in all of the news that I wrote down. Just once again, follow your news organizations. Follow us. Like I said, we'll be at the MD-1s later today. Jason's up at practice this morning for Argentina and then for Egypt. So it's going to be availability for Argentina, practice for Argentina. And then it is going to be then Egypt is going to have their practice and their availability as well. So it is, I think, going to be starting in the next couple of minutes, actually. So the media opportunity, Paredes, Thiago Almada, and Nahuel Molina. That's going on in about 6 minutes up in Kennesaw. And then practice. Sessions open for the first 15 minutes. So that gets you to 11:45. Egypt has moved their press conference to 12:45, or their mixed zone opportunity. Sorry, their media opportunity with Karim Hafez, Mustafa Ziko, and Mohamed Allah. That is at the training center for Atlanta United Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground at 12:45. So literally what you're doing is you're going from one practice to the next. Media opportunity before practice from 12:45 to 1. 1 o'clock, first 15 minutes are open. So you're going literally from Kennesaw to the Children's Healthcare. You're going from the fraction to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground. MD-1 press conference for Egypt is at 3:30, and Argentina's MD-1 is set for 5:30 with Lionel Scaloni. And so, like I said, we'll be there for those, and we'll let you know what's going on there. And the press conference for Egypt at 3:30 is set to be with Hossam Hassan, the head coach for Egypt. So that's where we will be. Jason is going to be at Park Tavern starting at about 4 o'clock. 6 to 8 Atlanta soccer tonight. And it is going to be leading up to the U.S. match at 8 o'clock. So that is where we are with everything going on World Cup today. Like I said, tomorrow morning, it is going to be an hour. Literally, it's going to be an hour. 8 to 9 out the door, heading downtown. Hoping to see a lot of you there. So let's get you into what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Brought to us by our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. That link helps you out, helps them out, helps us out. Because you get all of the streaming that you would want from South America, a lot of the A and B divisions that you wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to see. Links to CATV, links to Tigo Sports. Like I said, links to the A and B divisions in a lot of different places. Sudamericana, Libertadores, all the BNs, which means you get Middle East, you get North Africa, you get Turkish League, you get Polish League, you get French League, you get Liga, and you get all of the qualifiers. You get AFCON, you're going to get WAFCON coming up in about a month, and you're going to get a lot of different things in and around the African continent, plus what they have going on in Europe. TVV out of Venezuela, but if you have a certain cable system, you could probably get that already. If you have the Hispanic package, you also can get CDO Plus out of Chile. You also get Liga 1 Max Pro out of Peru, Teisei out of Argentina, all in one place. That's Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. So what to watch today? Big FOX has both matches at 3 and 8. Telemundo has both matches at 3 and 8. Fox O&E and Peacock have both matches today at 3 and 8. And so we'll keep an eye on all of that. Now, all your transfer news in the gossip, rumor, and innuendo section. Trying to see if there's any other headlines that I might have missed along the way. We may tour the papers overseas just to give it an idea. Also, after the loss for Brazil yesterday, there's going to be the word that they're using is inquest. And so keep an eye on what's going on in Brazil with Carlo Ancelotti. And the biggest questions involving Carlo Ancelotti were the change of philosophy into the match yesterday against Norway. You only had 35% possession, I believe, at one point in the first half. And you were playing more reactive as opposed to proactive. And so there's going to be a lot of folks asking some stuff about what they saw involving Brazil as they bowed out on Sunday. Arsenal considering West Ham United right back Aaron Wan-Bissaka as a potential replacement for Ben White, according to Team Talk, reportedly looking at 11 different options. White suffered a knee ligament injury in May, could move abroad. Other options include Real Madrid's Raul Asensio, Oscar Mingueza, who's a free agent after leaving Celta de Vigo, RB Leipzig's Lutradel Geertruida, Tino Livramento from Newcastle has apparently also been discussed. Sorry, Alex. Manchester United want Chelsea's Andre Santos, but any transfer valued at £50 million, according to The Guardian. Talks yet to take place. Offer is anticipated. United, who want to sign 2 midfielders this summer, have already missed on Elliot Anderson and Mateus Fernandes. Alex Scott is also a player of interest. Bournemouth is going to want a king's ransom, and they're telling everybody they're not interested in letting Alex Scott go. Santos is behind Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez at Stamford Bridge. He's open to leaving, with Chelsea needing to bring in funds to help Xabi Alonso strengthen his squad. Spurs exploring a deal for Rafa Leao at AC Milan after being informed he'd be open to joining them, according to Team Talk. Spurs have started working on a deal after holding initial discussions with the 27-year-old's reps. Portuguese international keen to play in the Premier League. Saudi Pro League clubs have also shown interest. Arsenal, United, Barca have all been approached, all three showing an interest but not making him a priority. Spurs interested in Savinho at Manchester City and Liverpool's Cody Gakpo as they continue their spending. According to TalkSport, Savinho has long been on the Spurs' radar. City ready to let him leave for around £60 million. Gakpo, unhappy at the sacking of Arne Slot, could push for a move away from Anfield. He could cost upwards of £70 million, and Arne Slot is also now being looked at as a possible Ronald Koeman replacement for the Netherlands national team. Newcastle looking to sign Germany and Stuttgart midfielder Angela Stieler, according to Bild. Previously linked to Manchester United, has reportedly a €36.5 million release clause in his contract. Stuttgart are able to pay a €2 million fee to void it if a club is willing to offer more. Sandro Tonali in. Lyon have signed Chelsea midfielder Johanna Rytting Kaneryd on a 3-year deal. Other rumors. Fabrizio Romano says that Chelsea continuing to work on a deal to sign Rayo Vallecano left-back Pep Chavarria, who wants to make the move. Nicolo Schira. Fenerbahce's shortlist for their striker includes Dortmund's Sergio Girassi, Romelu Lukaku from Napoli, and Atletico de Madrid's Alexander Sorloth. Romano, again, Brentford have agreed on a deal in principle to sign Burnley winger Jaden Anthony for £17 million plus 3 in add-ons. Rudy Galletti, Leipzig, Hoffenheim, Hamburg, and Monaco are all interested in Watford striker Mamadou Doumbia. Romano again. Spurs center back Rado Dragusin will travel early next week for a medical with Fiorentina. Move being worth £16.5 million between a loan fee and obligation to make the deal permanent and salary covered until June. Nicola Schira, Bologna, Sassuolo, Cagliari all interested in Hellas Verona striker Kieran Bowie, and a deal for 18-year-old Lazio left-back Lorenzo Calvani to join AC Milan is in the final stages. Matteo Moretto, Lazio pressing for Bayern Munich attacking midfielder Jonathan Asp Jensen. Offer of €500,000 loan, obligation to sign the 20-year-old for €5 or €6 million. Foot Mercato, Charleroi defensive midfielder Mori Kira, who is 18, has received interest from Monaco, Paris, FC, and Lille. And Foot Mercato is reporting Fenerbahce made a €20 million offer for Sassuolo winger Armand Lorient. And so that is your gossip, your rumor, and your innuendo for the morning. Checking the headlines and checking the papers, seeing if we've missed anything in particular. According to The Guardian and Iromo Egbejula, Senegalese officials are due to return home today, nearly a week after the exit. Players and technical staff stranded in Seattle. We got to catch up with Ali Howorth about that. Some players are also reportedly granted authorization to stay back in the U.S., fly onward to their bases, or go on vacation. Logistical issues meant the rest of the delegation initially left behind. Ministry, in a statement on the website Sunday, said the arrival in Dakar, the official national team delegation, is now scheduled. Charter flight was due to land in the Senegalese capital Tuesday morning, 9:15 local time, so that would have been about 7 hours ago. No update as of yet. We mentioned with Ali Howorth about Pape Thiaw not signing his contract, owed 5 months of salary until a few hours to the knockout match. Unpaid pair bonuses, allegations, all of that stuff. So that was part of the Senegalese conversation that we got to have with Ali Howorth this morning. So once again, checking sources, checking anything, and what other stories might we have missed. We talked about Tonali, talked about Cersei and Kaneryd, talked about Oliver Glasner. If you're not talking about Oyarzabal, you're missing out. Let's see. Bazamana Toure, £43 million signing for Newcastle from Hoffenheim. Mentioned the move with Somerville. And, okay, I think we're good with The Guardian. Shifting over, seeing if we've missed anything with any other papers. Abby, have a marvelous Monday. Thanks for coming by, as you always do. And let's see. Let's see. Harry Kane. And by the way, I'm hoping that Harry Kane did not or is not going to be able to talk today. Considering if you saw the post-match interview, that he was in a world of hurt from yelling so much. He needs like a day off from talking. He really does need a day off from talking. because that was some squeaky stuff that was coming from Harry Kane last night. Mentioned Tonali and the $100 million. Ederson is set for a full medical after Brazil's exit. There's the Tonali news. And let's see, checking to see if there are any other big names that are out there. Alexander Jensen has left Aberdeen to join Elfsborg. Chelsea signed Aggie Beever-Jones to a new contract, the 22-year-old forward. How do we know this? She is allegedly holding a piece of paper. I don't see a contract, but she's holding a pen over a table. And it looks like she's holding something that may not be there. So Chelsea has a picture of Aggie Beever-Jones with the elevated pen and the smile looking at the camera, but she doesn't look like she's about to put her pen to a piece of paper. The piece of paper may not be on the desk. So keep an eye out on that. Whole parted company with sporting director Jared Dublin took up the role in October 24, leaving with immediate effect. We mentioned Felipe Luis. According to AS, and Manchester United willing to put a lot of money on the table to sign Aurelien Tchouameni. United's plans to make a, quote, crazy move. Led AS's website as a Monday lunchtime, so 7 o'clock this morning, our time. However, the story doesn't make it seem like United will have an easy ride in getting Tchouameni, who's made it clear his future lies with Real Madrid. Real Madrid also unwilling to sanction any sales for less than €100 million. United could sign 3 midfielders this summer after Casemiro's exit and Manuel Ugarte's injury, having missed out on Mateus Fernandes. Tchouameni, Alex Scott high on their list, as is Andre Santos. Ederson's move to Old Trafford from Atalanta is basically done, pending a medical. AS describes Tchouameni as currently being a distant dream for Manchester United, before finishing with the line, quote, but everything could change. Ruben Amorim says his new challenge at AC Milan is even bigger than the job he left at Manchester United, starting work at Milan today. Spoke to the assembled media. I am here and the challenge is even bigger. Georgi Shakvatadze has left Watford, completed a permanent move to Udinese. 26-year-old midfielder, 3 years at Vicarage Road. We mentioned the Ederson medical. We mentioned Canarid, who is holding up a jersey, looking at it for the year 2029. 139 matches for Chelsea, 17 and 26, 7 major trophies. Earned her first senior national call-up in the year 2021. So I think that's all of the news for this morning. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else that we might have missed along the way before we get out of here. Like I said, I knew we were going long. Didn't know, oh, yes, we got to do this. Okay, and this is kind of featurey. But the World Cup field player impact scores for the round through the round of 32 doesn't include round of 16 because they're not complete yet. And so formula categories, values, and top 50 players to the round of 32 from our friend Chad Gabert up at Kennesaw State University. Current items in the formula: scoring, playmaking, goals, assists, XA, shots on target per 90, tackles, picks, blocks, possessions won in the final third per 90, clearances, and accurate passes. So Chad sent the attachment, and I'm trying to find said attachment so we can actually, so there's the old one. So let me see if there's the explanation. Okay, so the explanation and the rankings, it's a 3-page document. And so here is the up-to-date standings in the player impact scoring rankings and explanation from our friends at Kennesaw State University. So we're gonna share a screen real quick. We'll let you know what their numbers are like. Once again, from our friend Chad Gabert. Here you go. Messi, Mbappe, Casemiro, Ryan Ayton-Nouri is at number 4. Vinicius Jr., Haaland, that number is going to go way the heck up. Jude Bellingham, that number is going to go way the heck up. Elise, Vite, Oyarzabal, underrated right there at number 10. Most of it's in attack. Alexis, Elliot Anderson, Marvin Sanaya at 13, Jean Arias at 14, Yan Diamande 15, Julian Quinones, Alex Freeman, Harry Kane, Cáceres, Pedro, Florian Wirtz, Leandro Trossard, Andres Cubas, Rodri, Ousmane Dembele, Ashraf Hakimi, and El Ayanui, Mo Salah, Matias Galarza before their loss, and Diego Gomez. That is your top 30. But Messi, 6 points ahead of Mbappe. Then Casemiro, Aït-Nouri, Vinicius Jr., Haaland. Like I said, Haaland is going to go rocketing up the charts. He'll be probably second after the round of 16. But that is the rundown of the stats from our friends at Kennesaw State University. 6 point right now, 6.7 point difference. And the World Cup player impact scoring. But that, I think you're going to see number 6 heading a little further north. You're going to see number 7 head a little further north. You're going to see 10 head a little further north. So it's going to be interesting. But Ryan Aït-Nouri, number 4, I did not know that one. But once again, defending and ball winning. Ryan Aït-Nouri, number 4 in the rankings after the round of 32. So if you have any concerns or conversations with Kennesaw State over their numbers, talk to them. That's some fun stuff. So he did. Yeah, Soccer for Good OG says Harry Kane sounded like Mrs. Doubtfire. That was pretty good. Yeah, he was hurt. I'm hoping he has throat coat tea and isn't talking to anybody. So morning OG, morning Abby. Silver City FC, welcome aboard. First time that we've had you in here. Belgium's look very beatable. Interesting to see if they turn it around. We'll see what it looks like. Let's see. So morning Abby, morning Knicks. Yep, yellow card and a broken arm in a match you didn't play. And so there's Turner. Morning Turner. And then once again, morning Knicks. Morning Wiley. Yeah, UFC 329. You're not kidding. Morning Lokeville. Good morning there. Morning, John. What do you think the scoreline will be for both matches today? I think Spain takes care of business. It's probably 3-1, 2-1, and they're chasing, and then you have Portugal chasing and Spain get a third. And I think my gut tells me that U.S. will win in more than 90 minutes. I think it's going to be probably 2-2, go to the extra 90, and then that's when the United States takes care of business. So 3-1, Spain over Portugal. U.S. wins in more than 90 minutes today. And so morning, Abby. Morning, Typhane. Typhane says Belgium's team shot Rudy Garcia as a major fraud. The Belgium team is shot. Rudy Garcia is a major fraud, winning hands down. So morning, Typhane. Thanks for joining us as you always do overseas. And I'm trying to see if there's anybody else that I missed. Czech and Norway, always the dark horse. Well, and my aunt, by the way, she texts me after these matches. She lives in Oslo. And she's like, yeah, we're up late. We're watching. So it's been kind of funny to get her texts from Norway for the Norway matches. And they're staying up late as a country. She's in her, let's see. So she is in her mid 80s, and she's up watching Norway play in the tournament. She's staying up late. I mean, she's retired and everything, but she's in her 80s, and she's watching the team do their thing over in Norway. It's pretty funny. So yes, my aunt is among those that is watching for the home audience. But no, it's great to have all of you folks that are in there for the Twitch pitches. You always do. So once again, keep an eye on stuff. And today, remember that once again, as you heard from Abe, they're going to be at Park Tavern. Abe is going to be there with Carl Dukes from 2 to 6. And then Jason takes over from 6 to 8. And then that is going to be chaos personified. And if you have not already, please subscribe to the Morning Espresso newsletter. That's our morning paper, brought to us by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Thanks for being great partners with us here at SDH. So tonight, once again, 6 to 8 pregame. And then you're off and running. Dukes and Bell with Abe Gordon. Spain, Portugal, Ronaldo, 2 to 6. Maddie and Jason, 6 to 8, Park Tavern. I will be on everything that is MD-1s. I'll let you know what's happening, what is being said as Argentina and Egypt have their press conferences downtown. We'll let you know what's going on there. So keep an eye out on social media for all that stuff. And we'll let you know what else is going on there. So we mentioned Felipe Luis. Strasbourg looks like they're chasing after Thomas Frank. Cabo Verde, you saw the whistle. You saw everything there. And on social media, it's been very, very cool to see what's going on there involving the return of Cabo Verde. So, busy day, bunch of different fronts. Keep an eye out on your socials. Make sure that you're locked into us on social media as well as we let you know what the heck's going on in and around the planet. We get you ready for Spain and Portugal. We get you ready for the U.S. men's national team in Belgium tonight, looking for a Stars and Stripes quake from the 12s up there in the Pacific Northwest. Well, obviously, we'll talk to Nico Moreno about it on Thursday morning. But get your place secured. Get there early. Be safe. Enjoy it. Have a fun time. Have a safe time. We'll talk about it tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. It is an hour-long sprint power hour because we got to get downtown for Argentina and Egypt ourselves. Mucha platial. Play it safe. That's Reaction Monday here on SDH AM. Since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do one thing and one thing only. We'll catch up with you starting 4 o'clock this afternoon. Well, actually, starting 6 o'clock tonight in earnest. But when Jason shows up at Park Tavern, say hi. 6 o'clock, Atlanta Soccer tonight, leading you into the U.S. and Belgium. Mucha platial, play it safe. We'll catch up with you a couple hours from Park Tavern.